I will bring this meeting of Peterborough City Council for June 9th, 2025 to order. Our first item of business is our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we're on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga of the Anishinaabeg. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teaching about our earth, our relations. May we honor those teachings. Our next item of business is 30 seconds of silent reflection. I would ask those in attendance to please remove your caps, and if able, please stand for the singing of our national anthem. Our next item of business is the reading of our constitutional statement. The Council for the City of Peterborough recognizes the principles contained in our Constitution and Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Our next item is approval of minutes of April 22nd, 2025 and May 20th, 2025. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Hickey, Councillor Vasiliadis. Comments or questions? We'll go to a vote. That is carried. Next item of business is declaration of pecuniary interest. Mr. Clerk, I'll declare a pecuniary interest on 11E, which is the Integrity Commissioner's report. I will recuse myself immediately from the chamber prior to delegations, and I would recommend that Councillor Beamer chair the meeting.
Mr. Clerk, and I guess to Mr. Acting Chair, item 7C, I will declare a conflict as a family member's co-owner of the planning company providing planning services for the subject property.
Point of order. The first one of probably many. We should probably take a vote on who's chairing the meeting.
Point of information. Does it not go to the deputy mayor if the mayor can't chair the meeting procedurally?
Thank you for the question. I believe the mayor has recommended that it go to Chair Beamer as chair of general committee. Council may vote on that, and if they choose not to, then council can vote as they wish to move it to first or second deputy mayor. Thank you.
Just to follow up though, I understand that is what just happened, but procedurally, does it not automatically go to the deputy mayor?
Thank you, council members. Procedurally, there is a recommendation in the procedure bylaw that permits the mayor upon recommendation to appoint a member to the chair. Thank you.
Yeah.
To my colleagues, then to City Clerk, for discussion purposes, I'm prepared to advance a motion appointing Andrew Beamer as acting meeting chair.
It's been seconded by Councillor Purnell. It's been moved by Councillor Duguay that Chairperson Beamer act as chair in the mayor's stead.
Point of order. Point of order to the clerk. May I ask a question of the clerk? Would that be permitted?
Yes.
This is not an agenda item. So the fact that there has been a motion put forward by a member of council and it's not an item on the agenda. This was not predetermined prior to the meeting that there would be a change in the procedure to what ordinarily is the deputy mayor taking the position of chair. I would call this motion out of order. Thank you.
Information. Who's the chair right now?
So, okay, so I'm going to jump in here. So first off, there's no such thing of point of information at the city. There is a point of information, Robert's rules, but for the city of Peterborough, we don't have a point of information. So there's a vote.
If I could just continue, was this a predetermined through you, clerk? Was this something that was requested of you prior to this meeting?
I was told there'd be a vote on who's going to be the chair,
That was planned ahead of time.
that there would be a vote.
Yeah, this is not an item on our agenda.
We need a chair, so I'm just,
Yes,
I don't know.
But there should have been a notification to council that there would be someone else chairing, and that this should have been transparent, because to have this all pre-established and then brought forward as a motion that is not an item on this agenda is, I think, a breach of procedure. Thank you very much.
No, duly noted, Councillor Chica, duly noted. I hear you. So I think the best thing to do is just to vote. So let's just take a vote, and if it loses, no hard feelings, someone else will move something. But Councillor Chica, duly noted on the transparency. We'll take a vote.
Ask a question before I vote.
Let's take a vote.
Is it not
We'll move
open
on.
for discussion?
We're going to vote.
I'm requiring some information to vote. Yes, thank you. Would this require a 2/3 majority to pass?
Mr. Clerk?
I believe it'd be a majority, Mr. Chair, as the procedure bylaw does suggest that upon recommendation of the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We'll take a vote. Thank you, colleagues. And again, Councilor Chica, duly noted on the doing better on procedure and transparency on that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here this evening. We appreciate you being on a nice Monday. Just a few guidelines for those in the audience and my colleagues. I think some of you have been through this before. We're going to ask that there's no applause, yelling, heckling, or booing in the gallery. If you hear something that you support, instead of clapping, if you can use your arms, I promise I'll give a running commentary throughout the whole evening. I promise. As chair, I'll not allow any yelling, booing, or heckling. I know this will not happen, and I know we're not going to get here, but if there is booing or heckling or yelling, we will clear the room out. if you're giving a delegation, if you can try your best to keep your comments to the reports or the recommendations. Of course, we'll allow leeway like we always do. We're here to listen, but do your best just to keep your comments to the report. Colleagues, likewise, we're here to listen. And just a friendly reminder, and this is for me too, but just points of order are for infractions of bylaws. They're not for interrupting other members. So with that, we'll open it up to registered delegations. You have 5 minutes, and I'll give you 1 minute notice. So our first topic is Queen Alexandra Community Center feasibility study. And we have Mark Tinkler, Board President, Activity Haven. Welcome, sir. You have 5 minutes, and if you could kindly just give your name and address.
Thank you, Chair and councillors. This on. My name is Mark Tinkler. I'm the president of Activity Haven. Oh, look at that. That's amazing. And I'm here to talk on the report from last week. I'd like to acknowledge that we have a few other, the executive director, Janet Buchanan is here, as well as some of our board members. Activity Haven has been a tenant of the Queen Alexandra Community Center for 40 years, since 1985. And this picture shows how we share the stage, if you will. Our mission at Activity Haven is to promote socialization of adults 50 plus and to provide a friendly, healthy, and caring environment. Our members are encouraged through intellectual, physical, creative, and social engagement to be active and involved, to develop friendships, and to maintain an independent and healthy lifestyle. And the pictures there, the one on the left is Lily Blinn, who participated in the Spark Photo Festival at the age of 90. And we had it for 3 years until last year when it was shut down, unfortunately. And the other picture is our table tennis club, and we are waiting for you, Dave. Activity Haven fully supports City Council's approval of the recommendation of the Commissioner of Community Services to invest in the Queen Alexandra Community Center as per option 1 of the report prepared by Plus VG Architects. As a principal tenant of the QACC, this decision will allow Activity Haven to maintain its existing programming in support of Peterborough's older adult population with minimal disruption, which for us is a very important point. And it will also provide us with the opportunity to strengthen and expand our activities over time in response to the evolving needs of our growing Activity Haven community. We truly appreciate the city's ongoing support. And as support, I point out that we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the support of the city over the past many years. And we will continue to work in close partnership with the city to ensure that the interests and needs of our 50 plus population are well served. We try to do what we can to support age-friendly Peterborough's mandate in the city. And I think we do a pretty good job. I'd like to, thank at this point Plus VG Architects for their report. I think it was thoughtful and thorough. And I'd like to thank the city, in particular Commissioner Laidman and his staff for their analysis and recommendations. And especially to Chris Kolek for being a liaison, for having met with us many times over a number of years. He was really very, very helpful and supportive.
1 minute left.
And okay, and thanks for Councillor Hickey for introducing this to the council and for council to support it, for supporting it last year. And just to finish off by the numbers, we talked about up to 1,300 members. We actually had over 47,000 sign-ins last year. And that works out to, and individuals that actually used our services was around 1,800 members. So we really are closer to 2,000 seniors that are making use of Activity Haven. I think that's an important point to make. And we had 171 brand new members since January. So we're getting about 35 per month of new members joining Activity Haven. So I think we're doing a pretty good job. And again, last point, we have our 50th anniversary this year. I hope you all attend. We have our celebration on August 14th at Activity Haven for a big barbecue. And hopefully you'll be there. And with that, I want to just thank you again.
Mr. Tinkler, thank you so much for that presentation. Do we have any questions of the presenter? Thank you. Mr. Councillor Duguay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, thank you for your attendance. I specifically want to thank you and your, I think it's your task force group that's been meeting with councillors for the opportunity to meet with you directly, so that we could be more informed regarding our decision in support of the building activity.
And we appreciated your time to come, and most of you had the opportunity to be able to speak with us, and we were very pleased and appreciated that greatly.
Any further questions? Mark, thank you so much, and thank you to the board and the whole team.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, our next topic, designation of 1310 Albertus Avenue. We have one delegate, Alexis Doyle. Welcome. If you could kindly give us your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My name is Alexis Doyle. I'm the property owner of 1310 Albertus Avenue. I want to thank the chair and the council for giving me the opportunity to speak on the decision to designate Moira Hall as a property having cultural heritage value under the Ontario Heritage Act. I also want to thank the City of Peterborough and the city staff for taking the time to notify me in advance that the property was being considered for designation. And I greatly appreciated that notice and the fact that the city took time to meet with me in person to sit down and answer my questions and understand the process. As the current property owner, I share the Peterborough Architectural Conservation Advisory Committee, PAC-ACT, and Council's appreciation for the rich history, beautiful craftsmanship, and character of Moira Hall, located at 1310 Albertus Avenue. It is a stunning building, both inside and out, and it has been the home to many over the years, including the long-term tenants who live there today. However, despite its historic and cultural significance, not a single owner has ever voluntarily submitted a request to designate the building. And while I cannot speak for my predecessors, I can only assume that their reason and mine may be one and the same. Home ownership is expensive, but owning a home that is 150 years old is another level. And I knew what I was getting myself into when I purchased the home. However, imposing heritage status on Moira Hall will result in an immediate increase to the existing maintenance costs experienced today. For one, few insurers cover designated buildings, and those that do charge a premium. I have reached out to my insurance broker, and it is estimated that should the building be designated by council, my insurance premiums will increase by a cost of at least 10% or more immediately. And this is only an estimate. It could be higher, and it also assumes that my current insurer is willing to work with me and to continue my coverage with this change in status. In addition to the higher insurance costs, maintaining a heritage designated building is often more expensive than a conventional property due to the unique materials and specialized skilled labor required to make changes. Maintaining the specific characteristics noted in the city staff's report will be more expensive. And while I appreciate the city's desire to designate properties in the community without any form of incentive to the homeowner, balancing costs with preserving historic architectural characteristics will be a challenge. I understand from staff that the city offers a heritage property tax relief program. However, I also understand that this program is fully subscribed and has a wait list of at least a dozen properties. The rate of acceptance into this program is one property every 1 to 2 years. It will take a little less than 20 years to clear the current wait list, and that assumes no additional properties will be added. In this instance, where it is the City of Peterborough who has come forward to designate the building, who is responsible for the additional financial burden? It should not fall to the homeowner. If the city is not prepared to cover any additional costs to maintain the high-valued historic characteristics of the building, I request an exception be made and that immediate enrollment into the Heritage Property Tax Relief Program be granted for Moira Hall. Should this accommodation not be possible, I ask Council to oppose PACAC's recommendation to designate Moira Hall until such an accommodation can be granted. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my position on this matter.
Thank you very much for being here this evening and your president. We may have questions. Any questions of the presenter? Seeing none. Thank you for being here this evening. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, our next topic this evening, Integrity Commissioner Joint Inquiry Report. Our first speaker, Daniel Turbin. Ms. Turbin, welcome. Thank you for being here this evening. You have 5 minutes, and if you could kindly give us your name and address.
Sure,
Time is yours.
Danielle Turpin, 1288 Bridal Drive.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Beamer, council, staff, and the fellow residents. I come before you today, not just as a concerned citizen, but as someone who cares deeply about the integrity of this council and the trust our community places in each and every one of you. The findings of the recent integrity report are disturbing, but unfortunately, I don't think they're really surprising to many of us. The report was clear. The mayor was found to have bullied, intimidated, threatened other members of this council, and that's not in question tonight. Whether any of you feel that the mayor was a good guy is not in question tonight. Whether the mayor has been shamed enough should not be in question tonight. What should be in question tonight is the response on June 7th, or more disturbingly, the lack of the response by some of the very people entrusted to uphold this dignity in this office. And on June 2nd, when the report was publicly addressed, the silence from some around this table was deafening. And when words were spoken, they were mostly spoken in defense of the mayor, not in defense of the people who were harmed by his actions. And that's backwards to me. That's not leadership. And let's be honest, everyone in this current chamber knows what often happens when someone speaks up to those holding power. And the mayor's behavior in question today is exactly what happens. And that's why so many people are hesitant to speak up or choose to not speak up at all. And that's why we're here now tonight, because the mayor intimidated and threatened city councilors because he didn't like what they stood for and they didn't like what they said. Period. And that shouldn't be okay. Don't get me wrong, because I don't think we're all just sitting here today because of just 1 or 2 bad acts by the mayor. It's about a culture. It's about a culture that allows harm to occur and then protects the power rather than the people. The mayor's apology, if we can even call it that, was half-hearted at best. An apology without full ownership is not accountability. And a truly remorseful leader would not say, I'll just accept the consequences that council decides. A truly remorseful leader is going to say that this was my mistake to own. I'm not going to force my colleagues to sit in judgment of my wrongdoing. And instead, I'm going to take that pay suspension, because it was my actions and my mistake, and it's the right thing to do. But instead, the mayor passed the buck. He turned to his council on June 2nd and essentially asked all of you to absorb the political cost of holding him accountable for his actions. And I know many of you have experienced some public backlash because of your silence on June 2nd, or because of the decision that was made on June 2nd. You might want to ask yourself if it was all worth it, to be frank. The mayor's passing this on to you is not leadership, that's evasion. And it put all of you, especially anyone who's already been targeted or intimidated, or possibly even afraid of reprisal, in an incredibly difficult and unfair position. And that's not what ethical governance looks like. Then we had Councillor Baldwin. He openly acknowledged that tons of emails came in from constituents calling for a full 90-day pay suspension. Those voices, our voices, were clear, loud, and entirely reasonable in the face of this behavior. And yet, instead of acting on what the public asked for, what his constituents asked for, Councillor Baldwin made a motion to do nothing. Absolutely nothing. But what is worse is that all but 3 of you went along with it and agreed. And that tells the public everything we need to know, I think. And I've asked this question myself many times over the past week, and I think a lot of us here have asked the same question.
One more minute.
Are the people we elected even listening to us, or are they just shielding power? And I guess tonight we're going to find that answer. City Hall is supposed to be a place of integrity, where people act with principle and decency. And if we can't expect that here, I don't know where we can. So tonight, this council must take a hard look inward. This question isn't about whether one person did something wrong. That's already been answered. He did. We already know that. The question now is whether those here tonight are going to have the courage to act. They're going to have the courage to speak up and say something. Is this council going to choose to protect the institution of public trust, or will it choose to protect one of its own at the expense of everyone else? I know these conversations aren't easy, but silence is not neutral. Silence in the face of harm is complicity. And I ask this council on behalf of everyone watching tonight, on behalf of everyone who's too afraid to speak,
Just wrap up.
Please, I want you all to do the right thing, not the politically safe thing, the right thing. Thank you.
Ms. Turpin, thank you very much. See a lot of hands behind you, so thank you, and thank you, gallery, for the hands in the air. Any questions for the presenter? Councillor Wheel?
Through the chair to Ms. Turpin, thank you very much for being here tonight. I know you come here to speak, but can you give me any indication what the heartbeat of your neighborhood, what their thoughts are about what was happening, what's going on, and certainly what has transpired, especially last week?
Yeah, I think after, thank you. And I think after last week's decision, I think that was a bit of a shock wave through our neighborhood. I think we were really surprised at the amount of silence that we had and the amount of, not really listening to the people. And we were extremely shocked. Many of us were extremely shocked at the fact that the conversations that were happening were in defense of really ridiculous behavior and not in defense of the actions and, the harm that was done. I have received tons of messages, tons of emails, lots of support outside because we are angry about what had happened. We are hurt about what happened. And I think it's time tonight that we do have an opportunity to make some difference and make some changes. And we really want this council to start looking at rebuilding the trust of the public, because right now we're not happy. There's a lot of people who are very angry about what happened on June 2nd. And we want to make sure that voices are heard and respected. People feel very safe in council. And that's all people who feel safe. And we want to make sure that if other people want to actually run for council, that they're going to run knowing that this is a safe environment for them. And I don't think that's the case right now.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wheel, for the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Again, gallery members, thank you for the hands in the air. Appreciate that. All right, our next speaker, Jennifer Lacey. Jennifer Lacey. Ms. Lacey, welcome. Thank you for being here this evening. And if you could just kindly give us your full name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Jennifer Lacey, and my address is 700 Park Hill Road West. Good evening. I, along with many others, attended the City Council meeting in person on June 2nd, where I saw with my own eyes how Council voted to not penalize someone who caused harm to their Council peers. This upsetting incident has sparked anger and outrage for many members of the community, and for good reason. The community is grappling with many different emotions and perspectives based on who they are as a person and their lived experiences. And each and every one of their opinions, emotions, and reasoning for being upset are valid and should be heard. I would like to share with you my perspective so that you could understand why I believe Council did not vote in the best interest of the people who have elected them. I am a mother of 2 children. Both are teenagers. My son is 14, and my children were aware that I was attending council on June 2nd, and they were aware why I was attending. When I returned home after the meeting, my son asked how it went. I explained the results and that there would be no penalty. My son said, "Mom, if I did this, or if I did what the mayor did at school, I would be suspended and I would probably have to speak with the police." When we discussed this further and the reasons why he would receive a penalty, while the mayor did not, my son simply said, "Because people in power don't get in trouble, and that's just the way it is." It was in this moment that I realized two things. First, my son, who is a teenager, and every single child in this community is held to a higher expectation on managing their behavior towards others than the mayor of Peterborough. Their prefrontal cortex, their brain's not fully developed, but yet the expectation is that they behave better than an adult. Second, my son has the insight to understand that if he gets in trouble, he would get more in trouble with someone else for the same behaviors simply because he is not in a position of power. He knows because he may not have power, he may not have as much money as some or a better job than someone, he will be treated differently and harsher compared to others. Simply put, he will be not treated equitably for reasons beyond his control. And council reinforced this by their vote on June 2nd. I just wanted to review 3 moments that struck out to me during the council meeting on June 2nd. One councillor commented that the mayor recused himself for the discussion, indicating that this was the right thing to do. Yet the 2 other councillors, Councillor Burke and Lachika, remained, indicating that they perhaps had no business having input. And this is victim shaming. It is statements like this that cause victims not to come forward to report violence out of fear that they themselves would be reprimanded when they have done absolutely nothing wrong. Another councillor spoke about how the mayor was publicly shamed and that is punishment enough. These comments reminded me of the statement, "Boys will be boys," meaning that this behavior should not cause surprise and we essentially need to move on. The moment that I have been struggling with the most, though, was the complete lack of silence of other councillors. Inaction is an action. By being silent, the message was sent loud and clear that you do not support your council members' emotional and physical well-being. This is very troubling as a constituent looking at the leaders of my community. Thank you, Councillor Burke, Lachika, and Riel for being my voice during that committee meeting.
One more minute.
Given all of this, my main concern is the impact that this will have on the community that I love dearly. I am concerned that by setting this precedent, any trust that there has been is lost. I'm worried that the mayor's actions and the council's lack of action could have a real consequence to the vulnerable and marginalized people in our community. Should council members feel intimidated and or bullied, some significant matters may not be dealt with as adequately as they should out of fear. This could put people's safety and well-being at risk. I encourage you to change your decision. You are the leaders in the community, and leaders lead by example. Thank you.
Ms. Campbell, thank you very much. A lot of hands behind you. So thank you, gallery. Any questions for the presenter? Ms. Campbell, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. All right, our next presenter, Robert Campbell. Robert Campbell. Mr. Campbell, welcome. If you could give us your full name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Bob Campbell. I live in 1357 White Crescent in Peterborough. It's my pleasure to be able to speak to you this evening about the character of Jeff Leal. I was not involved in the council meeting. I'm simply here to provide, I think, a little bit of historical perspective on my relationship with the mayor. I have been a resident of Peterborough since 1969. Worked at Ethicon Sutures, taught in the public education system for 27 years. Was a division director and regional director with Investors Group for 16 years. Susan and I have raised 6 children in this area. I've spent the last few years in the not-for-profit area, and that's where I first met and worked with Jeff. I was chair of the finance committee at Hospice Peterborough and part of a dedicated group who took on the task of raising money and building the 10-bed residence on London Street. I met Jeff as our MPP during that time as we were in communication with the Ministry of Health for potential funding. Jeff was extremely helpful in many ways, navigating through provincial system, communicating pertinent information, clearing the way for funding. Any dealings with Jeff were professional, polite, and helpful. I admired the way he handled our many and frequent questions with respect and understanding of our needs. Always great follow-up. I occasionally would meet with him at other meetings and we would chat. And he would always say, "Bob, don't worry, the money will be here." He was very reassuring, respectful, and helpful. Subsequently, as chair of the board of hospice, I was always confident that I could reach out to Jeff for additional information.
Point of order.
Sorry?
Councillor Burke, point of order.
Yeah, section 7.3 of our procedural bylaw says we're supposed to focus on the issues, not the personalities.
Okay.
So I don't see how this is relevant to the Integrity Commissioner's report.
Okay, so sir, if you can just keep it a little closer to the report and proposed motion. We want to hear your perspective, but maybe just a little closer to the report, the recommendations.
I have not read the report. I'm just reflecting my experience with Jeff.
And
Am I
then
allowed
point
to
of order,
proceed?
then Chair, I would say that my point of order is that it's out of order to have a delegate speak to the character of someone, and that's from our procedural bylaw, section 7.3.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes left. If you can maybe just bring it a little bit closer to the recommendations, how you feel council should proceed one way or another, just based on the report or your perspective of that.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it is not for me to decide what you are going to decide in terms of the incidents and the impression that you have. I'm merely here to provide my personal perspective on a person that you're deciding. It's not for me to decide what you're going to do. I mean, I can continue. I have only 1 more minute, but I hear the councillor's objection, so
Okay.
I leave it to you.
Okay, we'll ask for any questions. Is there any questions of the council? Okay, with that, Mr. Campbell, thank you for being here. Appreciate the presentation. Councillor Reel.
Through the chair to Mr. Campbell, and thank you very much for being here. I have to concur with my council mate, Councillor Burke. So what do you feel should be the penalty from the Integrity Commissioners? I'm sorry you told us that you didn't read the report, but what do you think should be the penalty for bullying or conduct that's not becoming this council chamber?
Unfortunately, I don't have any of your backgrounds to decide that. I have background in many other areas, but not in this case. Because my experience with Jeff is as a colleague when we were working with hospice, and as now a friend. So it would probably be inappropriate for me to make a decision or to influence you in what you decide is appropriate.
Councillor, I have Councillor Burke and then Councillor DeGay. And just a point of order, the 7.3 that you referenced, Councillor Burke, is just for council members, not delegates. However, your point is taken. So, Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair Beamer, and through you to Mr. Campbell. Mr. Campbell, if you didn't read the report, if you have no context to what the decision is we're making on the report, can you walk us through the mechanisms or what happened to have you come in front of council tonight to speak to the mayor's character?
Um,
That has nothing to do with your presentation. So
yeah,
Councilor Burke, do you have a question about the presentation?
I think though, in my own defense, that it is appropriate for community members to provide some information about the person who is being discussed. And so it people like myself are perhaps doing it on behalf of Jeff. Again, not, I understand the Integrity Commission did a report. I understand very briefly about what that was, but I'm in no position to take on your responsibility.
All right, thank you very much. So again, just questions of clarification of the presentation. So Councilor Duguay.
Chair Beamer, I was contemplating speaking to section 7.3, but it doesn't pertain to the speaker. Can
Yeah.
we do that after the speaker? Or when can that be discussed?
Well, I think Councilor Burke brought forth made a point of the bylaw 7.3, which respectfully was incorrect. So I think we've made that comment that it's not correct. And
Thank you. I concur with that
Yep.
statement. Thank
Yep.
you.
Councilor Chica, questions for clarification.
Thank you. Just thank you, Mr. Campbell. I just had a question for you. Did you read the criteria for making a delegation? It actually says that making the delegation must be made based on a specific report and the content within that report. Did you read that and were you aware of that?
Not aware of that.
It's interesting because today, Mr. Campbell, council received an email that actually said that Mayor Leal had requested that they write a character letter, and we received that character letter today. Were you asked to provide a character delegation today by the mayor?
I would not ask to provide a letter, no.
Not a letter, but were you asked by the mayor to delegate today on his behalf?
I was asked by the mayor to consider.
Thank you for that information.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, so just a friendly reminder, always through the chair. And again, we want to make sure questions are of clarification of the presentation. But Mr. Campbell, thank you for being here this evening. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Point of order,
Councilor Real, point of order.
to the chair. How are you going to handle other people that are coming up here for character references? How are you going to now do that?
Mr. Clerk, can you give sort of what is the procedure around someone speaking on a topic in terms of their perspective?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think typically a delegate would speak to matters that pertain to the report or the item that's on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, so again, like I said at the start, to all delegates, let's try to keep our comments to the report or the proposed motion. Having said that, we do have to allow a little bit of leeway, Councilor Real, for perspective. The second speaker provided some perspective about their family and their two children, and we have to provide a little bit of leeway for different perspectives. But like I've said a few times, we do have to keep it on the report.
Through the chair, I mean, the two people spoke on the item there was, even though they brought some personal information in.
Yeah.
The last person spoke about the character of the mayor and was asked by the mayor to give a character reference. My question was, are you going to nip this in the butt or let this continue? I have no idea
So
who these people are on this list and why they've come tonight.
and Councilor, neither do I. So let's just listen to them and we'll go from there. I don't know who they are either. I really don't.
Well, I'm not
So
going,
Councilor, we're going to proceed. We're going to proceed. And if there's
but I'm not going to dig into the procedural bylaw to
Mhm.
figure out if it's right or wrong.
Mhm.
It's up to the chair to say,
I agree.
this is not the item that you're talking to.
I agree.
All I'm saying.
Yep, but I have to hear the delegates, Councilor Real. So the next delegate, no stranger to the city of Peterborough, Mr. Dennis Carter Edwards. Mr. Carter Edwards, welcome. You have 5 minutes, and if you can kindly give us your name and your address.
Dennis Carter Edwards, 301 Carnegie Avenue, and I'm not sure quite how I can proceed given the tenor of the discussion, but I will carry on with my remarks.
Okay, I maybe have some information, so I'll just, Mr. Potts, did you want to make those comments or? So I'm just going to rule it that the discussion, one of the recommendations in front of us is about a potential penalty. It is in order for deputants to be permitted to speak to the character of a member of council. So that's going to be the chair's ruling.
Point of order.
Okay, Councillor Chica.
Through you, Chair, my question is, was there information that was given prior to this council meeting from the Commissioner of Legislative Services?
No, it
So
happened
what are you-
5 seconds ago.
What are you reading and how did you receive that information?
Via Teams about 5 seconds ago. So-
Teams memo across the table?
Commissioner, can you just provide that comment?
Excuse me, I'm not finished, Chair Beamer. So
So
did you send a message to the Commissioner of Legislative Services about, after we've already determined through the clerk that it must be a report that is spoken to, not character?
No, I did not. No, I did not.
So it was sent to you?
Just giving, yes,
Thank you.
that's the question. Commissioner Potts, can you just give us your thoughts on whether delegates are allowed to speak about character?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. To confirm, you did not message me. I did not message you. I have messaged my staff colleague, the clerk. In terms of what's in front of council this evening is whether to impose beyond the publication of a report with a negative finding, which the clerk was bound to do. The question before council is whether to impose the additional alternative penalty of a reprimand or of suspension of remuneration. It is, in my view, and thank you for the question, it's in my view totally in order. In fact, going to perhaps the mayor's rights to have interested citizens speak to the mayor's character, because the issue is whether council wants to impose an additional penalty. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So ultimately, Councillor Cheekin, I'll come to you. As chair, I want to do what's right and what's best. And that is the ruling I'm going to make, is that delegates can speak to the mayor's character. So would you like to challenge the chair?
I would like to make a comment about the integrity of the process that's going on right now.
So you can make those in the comment section. I'll come to you, Councillor Cheek, I promise, in the comment section during the recommendations. Right now, we're here to listen to the delegates.
The report did not ask for character, a character analysis of the mayor. The report asked for a decision.
And we'll make that decision this evening. So again, colleagues, we're trying to do our best here to listen to the delegates, and I'm going to follow the approach of the commissioner that the delegates can speak to the mayor's character. So with that, Mr. Carter Edwards, you have 5 minutes. Again, thank you for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, members of council. And I will say before I start my remarks, I have followed the discussions in the newspaper and have read the précis in the Peterborough Examiner. I have not had an opportunity to read the full report. As you know, council produces many reports on a number of topics that are of interest. I do try to follow the news through our newspaper, which has always been a good source of information. So I'm here this evening to speak to the report by the Integrity Commissioner. Mayor Leal's dedication to serving our community is a matter of public record. His years as a city councillor, member of the provincial legislature, minister of the crown, and currently mayor are, in my opinion, a testament to his ongoing commitment to furthering the well-being of our community, Peterborough, and to the province. My comments relate to a very specific instance in which Jeff Leal honored a member of my family. In March of 2010, 4 generations of Carter Edwards were guests of MPP Jeff Leal at Queen's Park, where we watched him read a prepared statement to the legislature noting the 65th anniversary of the liberation of Buchenwald concentration camp and the 168 Allied airmen who were incarcerated there in contravention of the Geneva Convention. Mr. Leal at the legislature paid tribute to my dad, Edward, saluting him as a veteran and as a survivor of the horrors of the Buchenwald concentration camp. He urged in his remarks to the legislature that successive generations carry the torch and ensure that the important lessons of the Holocaust endure. Now, I'm sure as you can all appreciate, it was a very special moment for our family. And to me personally, it speaks to the character of Mr. Leal to acknowledge and to respect the service and sacrifice of our veterans as he has done throughout his career. That, I think, speaks to the character of the man. I thank you for the opportunity to share this memory with you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Any questions for the presenter? Dennis, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it this evening. Thank you. All right, our next speaker this evening, Granville Anderson. Mr. Anderson, welcome. Thank you for being here this evening. If you could kindly give us your name and address.
Granville Anderson, 88 Westover Drive, Bowmanville. And I will, my address tells it all. I am not, no one asked me to be here. Jeff was a former colleague of mine at Queen's Park. And as a matter of fact, Peterborough is a second home to me. My parents taught here for many years. My parents lived in Lakefield. I spent a lot of time in Lakefield, so I'm familiar with it. Plus, I was a trustee for 12 years and chair of a school board, so I was here twice per week for meetings. So Peterborough is, in fact, second home to me, and I do have a vested interest in what happens in this community. So I thank you all. Thank you, members of council and staff, and thanks to the residents who take the time to be here. It's good to see folks are interested and involved in democracy. So that's good. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Granville Anderson, as I alluded to for earlier. I am here not as a resident of Peterborough, but as a former colleague and friend of Jeff Leal, and someone who knows firsthand realities and pressures of political life. I have worked closely with Jeff for many years in politics and public service. He has always led with sincerity, respect, and commitment, and doing what was right, even when it wasn't easy or popular. He's a man of great character and principle, and that's, I'm speaking from my personal experiences with Jeff over many years, over 20 plus years. The Integrity Commission findings are serious and important. What happened was not appropriate, and I know Jeff recognizes that, and that matters because it reflects the character I've known all along. As someone who served in a similar role, I know how emotionally charged meetings can become, particularly when personal matters and community issues collide. That doesn't justify losing composure, and I'm not here to excuse the behavior of my former colleague and friend. I am here to talk about a good person who stumbled in the heat of the moment. Intimidation and bullying have no place in council chambers or anywhere in public life, and as a matter of fact, anywhere in society. And it's right for council to take it very seriously, which I am sure you all will do this evening. I ask you to see Jeff, as I have known him for years, and I am sure many of you around the chambers have as well. A decent, dedicated public servant who made a mistake, owned it, and want to make it right. In over 30 years or close to 40 years of public service, Jeff has never faced something like this, to the best of my knowledge, that is. And that should speak volume about his character and how out of step this moment truly was. I hope you'll choose a response that acknowledges the moment, but also reflects on how rare it is in an otherwise long, respectful, and steady record of service over many years. And that's all I have to say. You know, as I said, don't know the circumstances of what happened. And I said, bullying has no place in our society. So if that happened, you know, we're in a business that we have to have thick skin, and you know, we have to do better than that at times. But you know, in the heat of the moment, things do happen, and we're all human. I don't want
1 minute left.
yeah, no. So we're all human, and I just want you to take that into consideration when you make decisions. We're, you know, so thank you for the opportunity to speak here this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson, for that. And gallery, I see you, so thank you. I have Councillor Burke, Lachika, and Reel. Councillor Burke, question of the presenter?
Yeah, Chair Beamer, thank you. And through you to Mr. Anderson, thank you for being here. I believe Councillor Riel and Councillor Lachika and I saw you just before the meeting coming out of the mayor's office in the hallway. So
I
it's nice
wasn't
to
in
see
his
you.
office. I came directly through the passageway.
Perfect,
Never
yes.
wasn't in his office.
Thank you, thank you. So it's nice to see you. Thank you. Now, you, in your remarks, you said that what the mayor did was not appropriate. You said that he recognizes that. You said that he wants to make it right. And you said that he's owned that. Can you explain how he's done those things
Well,
that you mentioned?
I understand that he has apologized. I don't know what form the apology took, but I was led to believe that he had apologized to council, and I believe to the principals involved in this unfortunate incident.
Chair Beamer, through you to Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson, are you aware that the Integrity Commissioner's 55-page report that took over a year long to investigate these incidences deeply went into the idea that the mayor's apology was not enough, and that there's in fact a couple pages that specifically referenced how the mayor apologized? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I have read, not in its entirety. I just got it like a few days ago. I have read most of it.
So through the chair to Mr. Anderson,
I don't know.
You said that you.
Councillor Burke will ask his question, and then Mr. Anderson, you can respond. So Councillor Burke, you have the floor.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair Beamer, and through you. So, you know, you talked that the mayor's owned it. You said that the mayor has made it right. How has that happened?
Through his apologies, and the rest is up to council. If they want to take further action, it's your purview to do that.
And so, Chair Beamer, through you to Mr. Anderson, even though the Integrity Commissioner's report spoke to the apology, you're gonna have, is it correct to say that your view on the apology is different than the report?
As I said, I wasn't there. I don't know. It's a report. I am sure the Integrity Commission his report is based on information that's provided to him, just as IE probably is privy to the same information I am.
The chair, to Mr. Anderson, what information?
I have done those reports, by the way, Chair.
Okay,
I am a mediator and I've written reports.
Great, Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. Through you to Mr. Anderson then. So you've read the report. You have a different take on the report. So you're satisfied that the mayor has owned it. You're satisfied that the mayor has made the situation right, and you're satisfied that the mayor has recognized what he's done. Is that correct?
Not up to me to be satisfied. It's up to the individuals who he has done wrong. If they're satisfied, I don't know. But it's my understanding that he had apologized to them.
Thank you, Chair Beamer.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burke. Councillor Lachika, questions of the presenter?
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. And, you know, I appreciate that you're a mediator and that you have experience in this world. And I appreciate that you recognize that the behavior was not acceptable.
Of course.
And, you know, I guess my question is, how can you be certain about what happened in the attempted mediation between the mayor and myself? Do you know what happened?
I don't.
Okay, so you can't be sure the nature of whatever attempted apology, incomplete apology was conveyed.
I base my statement on what I've read, that he did apologize.
Based on his statement, correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, hopefully I can clear that up later. And just a question, I'm just wondering why, if you think that it was inappropriate, you would have, you said that in our business, having a thick skin is something that we all have to have. I have a thick skin, or I wouldn't be smiling today and doing the business that I do. And I've endured a year of waiting for the report to come forward from the commissioner. I know all of these people have thick skins because we do debate voraciously over many important issues. But this isn't about having a thick skin. This is about what should be appropriate in an environment, in a political environment.
Question,
So-
Councillor
So
Luchika?
my question is, do you not see the difference between having a thick skin and about a safe and healthy, non-toxic work environment?
Yes, I am all in favor of that, and that's the way it should be. But there's also a human factor that I think about. We're all human. We're all susceptible to mistakes and error in judgment, and we're not perfect.
Supplementary,
Councillor-
one more
Councillor
question.
Luchika through the chair.
One more question through the chair, through you, Chair Beamer. Because you were an MPP colleague with Mayor Leal, were you in chambers the day that he was ejected from the legislature in 2017
All right,
for
Councillor
outburst
Luchika. Councillor
against
Luchika.
another female
Councillor
politician?
Luchika, Councillor Luchika, okay.
Ejected for an
Okay,
outburst.
Councillor Luchika,
Thank
Councillor
you very
Luchika.
much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, audience, I see your hands. No applause or booing. You've been great. Thank you. Councillor Luchika, let's move on. Councillor.
But Chair Beamer, it's just a fact. It's in the newspaper.
In Councillor Chica, that might be a fact in your comments under debate tonight, but not a question of the speaker.
I was just wondering if he was there and witnessed that.
Okay, thank you.
I was there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chica. Thank you, Councillor Burke. Councillor, questions of the presenter of clarification.
Mr. Anderson, thank you very much for being here tonight. Certainly your years of experience as an MPP and certainly sitting in legislature, what would be the outcome if this kind of conduct was precipitated at Queen's Park? Would the person not be expelled? And then they would have to come forward and give a public
Yes,
apology
they would have
to
to.
the person.
Yes, I don't know if that took place here or not. I just know that an apology was made. So I'm basing my comments on that. The
And-
facts as I know them.
And I'm just going back to your days at Queen's Park, that when this kind of
Yes.
conduct happens, they are expelled from the legislation.
And-
And then the only time they can come back is when they public apologize to
To
the
the
person.
legislature, and
that
to
was
the
the-
legislature, yes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Real. Mr. Anderson, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Drive safe. Our next presenter is John Fearless. If I have that name wrong, I apologize, but welcome. You have 5 minutes, and if you can kindly give us your name and your address.
Well, my name is John Garrellis. Here to talk about one word.
If you could just give us your address, please, sir.
I'm on Middleton Drive in Peterborough.
Thank you. Welcome.
Integrity generally means honesty, moral uprightness, and trustworthiness. It refers to a strong adherence to ethical and moral principles, meaning someone who acts with integrity consistently, does what is right, even when not being watched. I've never worked as a counselor, but I have worked in government and in manufacturing. Structured work environments will only function with rules, respect, integrity, and a code of conduct. The importance of rules was never more important than in my past life. I was a referee. I refereed a lot of hockey over 30 years. Back in that life, I used to know someone currently sitting as a counselor. He did the same job and was pretty good at it. Of late, I've wondered whatever happened to that guy. Through my career of officiating, I believe that I earned the respect of the players, coaches, and indeed my fellow officials with consistency, fairness, and integrity. You learned that there were penalties that you could let go. But most importantly, you learned about the penalties that were always called. There is no discretion for a high stick, a spear, running the goalie, racial slurs, to mention a few. These penalties are called no matter the score no matter who the player was, no matter the team. Sometimes it's hard to make the call, but you always do it. It's because of integrity. Integrity for myself, integrity for my officiating team, integrity for the game, integrity for the black and white sweater. You're representing every person that ever wore that sweater. It's a black and white sweater, which signifies rules, code of conduct, black and white, right and wrong. It doesn't matter that you know the player off the ice or that he's a great guy. These calls must be made to maintain your personal respect and integrity, but more importantly, to maintain the trust and integrity of the game and the sweater. That brings me back to why we're here tonight. Integrity. After all, it's in the name and the report. 2 serious violations, breaches of the code of conduct, intimidation and bullying, proven. Not opinions, not I'm pretty sure he did it, proven, black and white, right and wrong. Being a counselor is a hard job. I understand the public debates in this chamber, the back and forth on issues and projects. It's what democracy is all about. I also know that you need alliances to get some projects approved. I think that we'd be pretty naive to think otherwise. Some would say that's just politics. But the public hopes, actually, we expect that these deals are not done at the expense of your honesty, morals, or integrity. Recent decisions have led many citizens to doubt that. I wonder if anybody has gone back to April 2nd and wondered what this past year would have been like when a simple and clear request to pause and relook at the Bonnerworth project had been approved. Your job tonight is to rule on the proven breaches of the code of conduct, intimidation.
1 minute left, 1 minute.
And bullying. It's not about the person, bigger than one person. This is about the office of counsel. It's about the integrity of that office and the oath you swore to it. This is for counselors everywhere, those who serve before you and those that will serve after you. This is about standing up for your colleagues. This is about showing city staff in your own workplaces, people that you used to work for, your families, your friends, the citizens of Peterborough, that intimidation and bullying has no place in today's society, and it will not be tolerated. Don't give it a pass. It doesn't matter that he's a longtime friend, or that he runs a good meeting, or that he's a great guy, or he said he was sorry, or he deserves a second chance. You can't separate the person from the office and not understand.
You just wrap it up.
I'm about to. You can't separate the person from the office, then ask yourself this. Would a person with integrity put all of you in this situation? The answer is no.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the presenter?
Kidding.
It's 5 minutes for everybody, including my colleagues.
With leeway.
I've been firm on that all night. 5 minutes. Councillor Will, questions of the presenter?
Through the chair to Ms. Gurlis. John, thank you very much for being here. And being here, I think, every night at council. Could you give me the Coles Notes version of what you feel about council? Because you sit in the gallery every week and watch how council is performing and what's going on. Could you give me the Coles Notes version of that?
Well, Cole, I don't know if that has anything to do with the presentation. If we can just keep it to the
He was here the
councillor.
night of the Integrity Commissioner when we talked about this, so I'm asking him.
I understand, but we can't give a Coles Notes version of the past 3 years. If you could just ask for clarification of the presentation.
The night that he was here on June the 2nd. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, I was here on June the 2nd, as was discussed. This council's become known as the 8-3 council, period. So, we talk about integrity tonight, and, a person with integrity would take responsibility for his actions. He wouldn't put you in this position. His insincere apologies would not fly tonight. person of integrity would act on behalf of the mayor, the office of council. That's what a person of integrity would do. And that's what people want. That's what people expect. Don't lower the bar. You said it last week. Raise it up, hold yourself and the mayor to that high standard. The office demands it. The city needs it. We need the trust in what you're doing.
All right, thank you.
Pass no penalty on what happened last week on the actions. You're condoning it.
Great. Any further questions? I see the hands in the audience, so thank you again, gallery. Thank you. Questions? Councilor Burke, question of clarification.
Chair Beamer, through you, thank you to John. I think that, and I have a question. It might just take me a second to get there. I think that the thing is, and you know, by a bunch of different events, by the fact that you have people here speaking to the individual in question's character, the way that the debate went last week, it feels like that anyone who's speaking out against this is sort of being framed as they want the mayor to pay in a moral way, or in a like, it feels like we're being looked at as people who want a reaction to this as you know, out for blood, right? That's definitely not my standpoint on this at all. As someone who was involved in the actual incident, I like the mayor and I'm able to function with him in my duties as a councillor very easily. We sit in our closed sessions next to each other sometimes and have dinner. There's nothing in me that wants to make him pay for this, that wants to make him feel the way I felt or the way Joy felt. That's not it. Is that where you guys are coming from? Because it's also the way that this sort of advocacy around this has been framed. Is it correct to say, I have a question.
Question, Councilor Burke?
Yeah, so is it correct to say that all the public is asking, all the councillors that are speaking out against this are asking for, is just a ruling on the report that matches with what was found in the report?
That's exactly it. There's no discrepancy on what the report found. I said it a number of times in my presentation that these are proven intimidation and bullying. It's proven. And by not acting on it in some manner, then it makes the council look like a joke. It really does.
All right. Thank you, sir, for being here this evening. Really appreciate it. And thank you, gallery. Next speaker, Ellen Shedden. Ellen Shedden? Son, I apologize. I've never been said apologies, but you're good to have you here. You have 5 minutes. If you could kindly just give us your full name and address.
My name is Ellen Seddon, and I reside on Weller Street in Peterborough. Tonight, I am addressing my concern regarding the council's vote on Monday, June 2nd, regarding the lack of consequences for the mayor, who decided council decided following no consequences. I will begin by commenting on the fact that several members of council have firsthand knowledge of how the education system handles bullying. Education boards deal with it very seriously. At the early age of 4 in JK, throughout the student's entire education experience, it is not tolerated, and the consequences are serious bullying. If serious bullying is exhibited, serious consequences result. I found it quite disturbing, therefore, to see a former educator and principal, who I greatly respected and enjoyed working with for many years, put forward a motion that no action for consequences be applied to the mayor in response to the Integrity Commissioner's report. Apparently, when you retire, the rules around bullying no longer apply. Commissioner Gennaro concluded that Mayor Leal's behavior did break the city's code of conduct, by behavior which demonstrated, quote, bullying, proven, intimidation, proven, end of quote. During council's discussion, one councillor felt that the mayor had enough of a consequence, saying he was quite ashamed of his actions. The shame was punishment enough. It was also intimated by several councillors that the mayor's apology to Councillor Burke was sufficient to end the matter. The Integrity Commissioner himself commented on that apology. Quote, I found the apology downplayed the gravity of what had occurred. It described the comments as intemperate and ill-chosen, which they were, but did not mention that two of the comments were threats, and that one of the threats used a figurative expression of metaphorical violence. End of quote. The commissioner further stated that the mayor's attempt, quote, to shift the blame for his behavior to Councillor Burke and Councillor La Chica or the crowded public gallery did not excuse or explain Mayor Leal's behavior. End of quote. Council on June the 2nd deflected to the CAO, Mr. Reyna, for a positive reference for the mayor's leadership. When a point of order was raised by Councillor La Chica as to the merit of this motion moving forward, as the matter had already been litigated, it was dismissed by Councillor and Acting Chair Beamer. Big surprise there. And the motion carried. And then the well-rehearsed drama continued. The CAO proceeded to give the mayor a ringing endorsement of his abilities. The mayor is the CAO's boss. Under the strong mayor powers, which Mayor Leal enjoys, he can now fire the CAO. Just a point to ponder there. Actions of Mayor Leal have been downplayed and minimized by 7 members of council who continue to insist that this action was a one-off and out of character. Therefore, no consequences are merited. However, we see the mayor and several council members continue to repeat these very same...
1 minute.
Yes, these very same tactics over and over again. Meaningful consequences laid out by the Integrity Commissioner should be applied, or the message being sent to the residents of Peterborough is that bullying, intimidation, and threatening are A-OK. The Integrity Commissioner has given his recommendation that the mayor take focused training related to harassment, abuse, bullying, intimidation, and other issues arising from this report. End of quote. What these issues are, we can only surmise. This ratification vote, if history repeats itself, will be 7-3 to have no consequences imposed on the mayor. Again, no surprise to anyone. What is not known at this point in time is what the consequences are for this council's repeated appalling bullying behavior. Perhaps the fall of 2026 will provide us with some answers to that question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see hands. There was a lot of hands when you criticized the chair, so that was very popular. So I saw the hands. I saw the hands. Questions of the presenter for clarification, Councillor Burke.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Beamer. Great job tonight. I mean that.
Oh, you're doing so good. No hands for that. I see a few hands,
Yeah.
so we're trying our best here.
This is a tough situation. Andrew, the chair is doing a great job. Thank you. I'd like to ask through you, Chair Beamer, to Ms. Seddon. You know, you talked about an imbalance of power. You mentioned that some people are framing this as a one-off incident. Are you aware that since these incidences have taken place, the following things have occurred? Firstly, the three of us, our seating arrangement has been moved. Mine and Councillor Riel's portfolio assignments have been changed, and mine and Councillor Riel's weekly meetings that we were having prior to these events were changed to be less frequent. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, gallery. Okay, next speaker, James Anderson. Mr. Anderson, welcome. Thank you for being here this evening. You have 5 minutes, and if you could kindly give us your full name and address. Welcome.
James Anderson, Middleton Drive. I was going to speak about integrity, but I think we've pretty much done it to death. So there's no sense in playing with that. Let's forget about the mayor. He was proven guilty. It's you 7 that I want to talk about. Your vote supported bullying and threats, which we've heard a few times, in the workplace. And we know in this day and age, there is zero tolerance. One councillor, Councillor Hakey, says he has known the mayor for 58 years and knows he feels shame. The councillor isn't here to support the mayor and make excuses for a longtime friend. He's here to uphold his office and make sure his colleagues are treated with respect. I'm sorry, councillor, but it's out and out nepotism. Another councillor used insinuation, Councillor Baldwin, implication and deflecting when talking about the mayor's penalty. He attempted to play you for sympathy by making allegations the mayor had property damage on the basis of no proof. But then he went on to mention Bonnerworth in the same paragraph. Let's see the police report. We're talking about the mayor and the councillor's word. The implication was to deflect blame to the Bonnerworth people. He only needed to sneak in Bonnerworth to subvert your thought process. But he went on to say councillors were anxious about parking their cars in the lot behind City Hall. Again, he mentions Bonnerworth. Again, any police reports of damage, or was it a conspiracy theory concocted by the 7?
So, Mr. Anderson, you're referencing a few incorrect councillors, so we just want to be careful of that. And if you can just keep it to the IC report, if you could, just so we're not incorrectly making statements about councillors who didn't say things. So just to the IC report.
With the IC report. Anyway, Councillor Baldwin's motion contained wording that is incorrect. I'd just like to ask that it be changed if you insist on keeping that motion. The motion stated, whereas the IC did not recommend a penalty. That's what it stated, I believe. The IC cannot, he has the option. Well, Councillor Baldwin made the comment or made the motion, whereas the IC did not recommend a penalty, as if the IC had the option to do it because he didn't find that a penalty was warranted. That's the way I took it. The Municipal Act states the IC does not have the authority to recommend a penalty. That was stated, but that one phrase, the IC did not recommend a penalty, is wrong. He can only recommend that council can determine a penalty. That whereas statement needs to be revised or removed from the motion. You're the judges that will set the sentence. Will you perpetuate the obvious toxicity surrounding this egregious action? Will you show integrity or be spineless and support bullying and threatening of my town ward councillors? I implore the 7, for the sake of integrity, to reverse General Committee's vote.
Mr. Anderson, thank you very much. And I see the hands in the gallery. Thank you for that. Any questions of the presenter? Mr. Anderson, thank you for being here this evening. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, our next presenter, Margie Sumad. Welcome. Take your time, but welcome and take your time. No, that makes sense. If you could kindly just give us your name and address, and thank you for being here.
My name is Margie Sumad. I live at 238 Dublin Street, and it's still the center of the universe. I want to read from a poem by Rumi, Afghani philosopher, Muslim philosopher of many centuries ago. And it is pertaining to this situation with the the report. People have given really amazing detail about what happened, what the integrity report includes. So I feel I have the space to give this. The guest house, it's called. It's well known. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So Rumi's poem invites us to contemplate ourselves as a guest house. We cannot choose who or what comes into our lives and circumstances out of our control. But we can choose how we respond to our guest, the circumstances that arrive at our door. We've had several such guests arrive at our door in Peterborough over these 7 years of my time here. Peterborough to me is a cul-de-sac. The community is festering. It has silos of power that affect the way its elected council operates. Actually, I think watching council meetings is a useful exercise for a civics class. The mayor once said he wouldn't use the strong mayor's vote, but he has. Committees appear to have been decided without consultation. Our community's cultural space is being rocked. Our public library is being decimated.
Miss, if you could just keep it a little bit closer to the IC report.
All right.
If
I thought you meant to the microphone, right? No.
No, you've been good, but just maybe a little bit
Okay.
to the IC report.
I question how it's possible for councillors to show support for issues in another ward. I see this dilemma. I wish for larger focus. We are currently confronting the issue of the mayor's response during a debate where my town councillors were debating and bringing evidence to the whole relating to the Bonneworth Park. In my mind, they offered substantial reasons for not going ahead. But in the end, it was them protecting the benefit of the park for local schools. On a potentially national pride pickleball tournament location. In the midst of the passion across the council, a faux pas was made and all hell broke loose. The mayor was asked to apologize for his violent response. We have also learnt of the bullying of my councillors, appalling and unforgivable.
1 minute remaining.
Here there is a lot of power in this horseshoe, but it comes also with so much responsibility to care for the whole city. Living in the town ward indeed is a very poor part of town. I see the lack of concern for the other. There is immense pride for the Ontario Award for the Wolfe Street setup, and I'm off topic, I know, but this is what I feel is part of the whole and the caring of all of our people in this place. Back to the mayor and voting. The Integrity Commission has ruled of the mayor's contravention of council's code of conduct. They named two very serious contraventions where councillors have been targeted in a very shocking ways. This council, in the last general meeting, clearly voted 7-3 on Gary Baldwin's motion to not impose any penalty. Really, after the commissioner's report, after people speaking to it, after the journalist's report, really? So it begs the question of how this guest issue was treated.
Just wrap it up, please.
Yeah. In my mind, the majority of councillors are lacking integrity if they don't speak. Councillor Baldwin even asked the CAO, the staff person hired by council, to give a public character reference of the mayor. How embarrassing, unethical is that?
All right, if we could just wrap it up then.
Okay. The guests we deal with tonight are very important and are what I hope councillors have the integrity of character themselves to deal with without fear of repercussion. I also hope that the mayor will have the integrity to say Councillor Baldwin's motion was misguided, that he recognized he'd gone far beyond not only a mayor's role, but also be a leader in the way we're treated.
We'll need to wrap it up there. We've
Okay.
a little over
And I-
5 minutes, but do we have any
Let me
questions for
say-
the presenter?
Let me say that I pray for a responsible vote,
Thank you very much.
and I hope that the Integrity Commissioner's ruling is accepted and honored in the work that they do.
Thank you. We see the hands. So any questions for the presenter? Questions of clarification? Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you so
I'm
much.
here every time.
I know you are. No, that means a lot. Thank you. I know Mr. Brady's here a lot too, so thanks, Roy. No, it's important. All right, our last delegate this evening, Alex Wilding. Alex Wilding. Welcome. Thank you for being here. If you could kindly give us your full name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Can you maybe just pull that down a little bit?
Is that better?
Yeah, and then move into it a little bit.
Okay.
There we are. You
Is that
got
good?
it. We got it.
Okay.
You're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Alex Wilding from Town Ward. And since it seems to matter to some people, I voted for Jeff Lill. Okay. The assertions on which the motion at the last meeting was made, that the mayor has made full and sufficient apology, and that the council has fulfilled its duty by summarily closing the matter, voting no correction and no restorative action be taken. Thank you. Does not accurately reflect the findings of the commissioner, in my opinion. With respect, I would like to remind the council of what the report actually says, and I will be using the commissioner's words almost entirely, not my own. Okay. There we go. Did the mayor breach Section 10 by treating Councillor Burke with abuse or intimidation? In relation to intimidation, yes, the mayor's threats were intimidation. Words used by the collective complainants to describe the mayor's conduct are violent, controlling, thuggish, aggressive, abusive, harassing, childish, bullying, gangster-like, relentless, out of control, scary, appalling, egregious, extremely detrimental, and concerning. I appreciate that the mayor did not then and does not now feel that his conduct was intimidating, but the evidence indicates that it was. You might wonder why the commissioner is including the comments of other people. That was of a particular concern to him, and he addressed it. He said that the Municipal Act states that I may disclose in this report such matters as, in my opinion, are necessary for the purposes of the report. All the content of this report, in my opinion, is necessary. In other words, that information was provided to council and the public to consider what they were going to do next. Let's see. Comments to Councillor Burke were made before people in the gallery started to heckle the mayor and to interrupt him. Councillor Burke did not invite, nor was he deserving of, being intimidated and threatened. And Mr. Giorno notes that the first threat was made after Councillor Burke had already apologized 3 times. Did the mayor breach Section 10 by bullying or intimidating Councillor LaChica? Yes. I find that Mayor Leal's angry, raised voice confrontation with Councillor LaChica constituted bullying. What happened should have been known to cause fear, humiliation, and distress to Councillor LaChica. The confrontation should have been expected to leave the councillor shaken and upset, and in fact, the mayor's confrontation had these effects. The Supreme Court of Canada has also acknowledged that bullying traditionally involves a power imbalance between bully and victim. The incident in the corridor occurred in the context of a power imbalance that is the hallmark of bullying. Compounding, the mayor does not recognize his actions. Compounding the corridor incident was the mayor's upholding of the same position 6 days later. If the mayor was unaware of the impact of the April 2 incident on Councillor LaChica, then she made him aware on April 8th. I find that Mayor Leal was holding to and defending what had occurred in the corridor on April 2nd. By doubling down on his earlier comments, he reinforced the bullying. Councillor LaChica has raised additional examples of contraventions of Section 10. I have not addressed them in this report, but reserve the right to do so in a subsequent report. Has the mayor apologized adequately? Mr. Jorna goes out of his way to quote one of the witnesses.
1 minute remaining, 1 minute.
Okay, Mayor Leal took no real responsibility for his actions. Mayor Leal employed a common manipulation tactic used by abusers to reshape or misrepresent reality for their own benefit. Such conduct does not reflect actual contrition nor semblance of accountability for his actions. Another speaker has already said that the IC does not recognize Mr. Leal's apology in any way, or that it indicates he has any level of contrition or insight. Finally, I would say that the suggestion that the only options available to council are penalty options, the complete range of penalty options for each contravention separately is A, no penalty, B, reprimand, pay suspension up to 90 days. In addition to imposing the penalty, the council may also adopt one or more remedial measures.
All right, if you could just finish up, if you could.
I have not seen that addressed yet. Remedial measures constitute a remedy of the contravention. They remedy the relationship between the member and the aggrieved individuals. And they provide a remedial path to find a solution to end the member's inappropriate conduct.
Okay, we'll have to finish there.
Okay, if I could just give one more sentence.
Sure.
One remedial measure, and the IC has gone out of his way to speak to this, to say that he does have the power to recommend this, and he does recommend it. One remedial measure the council might wish to consider would be the following: asking Mr. Ewart, the integrity commissioner responsible for advice, to provide focused training related to harassment, abuse, bullying, and intimidation, and other issues arising from this report.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We see the hands behind you. A few feet too, I think. So thanks, everyone. Questions of the presenter? Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Delegates, thank you very much for your delegations, and thank you for the support in the gallery. So, colleagues, we passed over one item to start. So just delegation. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. I'll take, I have an interest on 11A. I am
Okay, Councillor, I just found that it's not recommended, so
Does that matter?
you're okay right now. If someone brings it forward, then we'll come to you again, but right now you're in the clear.
Thank you.
Councillor Degay, you had a pecuniary, I believe?
Chair Beamer, I did, and it would speak to item 10J, 780 Argyle Street. The conflict arises from a family member co-owning the planning consulting firm representing the property developers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, colleagues, we'll go through our consent agenda. Let me know if you'd like to speak to any of the following items. 10A, property report. 10B, sanitary master plan. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 10C, Queen Elizabeth Community Center feasibility study. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Councillor Lachika. 10D, budget increase request and contract amendment for Woodland Drive and Water Street intersection. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 10E, Integrity Commissioner Joint Inquiry Report. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Councillor Baldwin. 10F, Social Services Reserves for Modular Wind Down. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 10G, Parks Levy Funds Transfer. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Councillor Vassiliadis. 10H, designation of 13 and 10 Albertus Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Councillor Purnell. 10I, designation of 640 Walker Field Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 10J, Argyle Street, will separate out for Councillor Degay. 10K, General Committee meeting from June 23rd. Anyone wishing to speak to that? And KLL, encampments on city property. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Councillor Hickey. Councillor Purnell, for clarification.
Yes, so just going back to the time change for June 23rd, I believe we have a new time. No, we don't have a new time. Okay, never mind. Thank you very much.
Okay, so for consent this evening, 10A, 10B, 10D, 10F, 10I, 10K. Moved by Councillor Purnell. We'll take a vote. One a seconder, Councillor Vasiliadis. Sir, I'm a yay. I'm a yay. And that is carried. Thank you, everybody. What we're going to do is we're going to move up, if it's all right, the Integrity Commissioner report, since the mayor's not here and I'm chairing. After that report, we'll take a 10-minute break. The mayor will return. I'll go to my council seat, and then we'll reconvene with the rest of the consent items, if that's all right with everybody. So Integrity Commissioner report, 10E, moved by Councillor Baldwin. I have a seconder. Councillor DeGay. Councillor Bone, you have the floor.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks to everyone who showed up in council chambers this evening. Mr. Chair, I'm going to be very brief with my comments because I think I said most of it last week. So I'm just going to read what I have here very, very quickly, Mr. Chair. Respectfully to everybody in the gallery, everybody at home, everybody in council chambers, it's my view that the moment the Integrity Commissioner's report was released, the mayor in fact received his reprimand. It is inherent in the report and it is in the public domain. This report from the Integrity Commissioner will be a permanent record of his findings. Mr. Chair, the mayor has apologized, and I personally accept that. Happy to move the report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bone. Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Point of order.
Councillor Lachika, your point of order.
Yes, thank you through you, Chair. There is an issue with the previous speaker's remarks. The mayor has not adequately apologized in any attempt at an apology.
Put you on the list.
Yeah,
I'll put you on the list. That's not a point of order.
Well,
I'll put you on the list.
It's an inaccurate statement for the previous council
put you on the list.
without the information, and I do have remarks.
Yeah, I'll put you on the list. Thank Councillor Baldwin. Point of order.
Yeah, point of order, Mr. Chair. I can't recall the date at which the mayor did apologize. Did apologize in public. Here in the council chamber.
Not to me.
Okay. Councillor Baldwin.
Mr. Chair, I can't speak to the interruption that I just received. I was rebuked last week about not going through the chair. But
Councillor Lachika, your point of order.
I apologize for the cross comment. But my point is, and because the previous speaker is continuing to speak in this vein, I did not receive an apology. Thank you.
And Councillor Lachika, I have you on the list, and you can make those comments for sure. So Councillor Baldwin has the floor. Councillor Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can recall the mayor apologizing to the public or in public with respect to his remarks at a previous meeting with respect to the discussion that occurred around Bonneworth and his remarks, in particular to Councillor Burke. And I believe his remarks, I can't speak for the mayor, Mr. Chair. I believe he was apologizing to both councillors, but he certainly did apologize in public at a meeting here at City Hall with respect to how that was interpreted by councillors around the table, by the Integrity Commissioner, by the public. I can't speak to that. What I can say is Mayor Leo did apologize, full stop. And as I said previously, I accept the apology. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Baldwin. All right, I have a speakers list. I have Councillor Crowley, Reel, Councillor Burke, Councillor LaChica. Councillor Crowley?
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to start off by first apologizing to Councillor LaChica because I know I never, from the time that the incident happened in the IG report, the IC report, I never actually reached out to her to convey support to her for a number of reasons, which I've actually spoken to Councillor LaChica about. So through you, Chair, I'm sorry to Councillor LaChica. When I'm wrong or have a failing, which is invariably, I'm usually the first person to admit it, unless, of course, you're on Reddit, in which case I'm at the back of the line. But maybe that makes me a little bit of a lesser counselor, but I find it's important to let people know that I'm human and sometimes I do make mistakes. I'm certainly not infallible. As a new counselor or as a first term counselor, I always thought that it was part of the job to for counselors to get angry, yell, and sometimes I was on the receiving end of that. I have been yelled at by other counselors. I've seen, and this
Point of order.
Councillor Reel, your
You-
point of order?
When you make an accusation like that, and you have a problem with any counselor, whoever that is,
Okay, Councillor, what's the point of
there
order?
is a order to go through, and that's why we have an integrity commissioner.
Okay.
But somebody to start pointing fingers around the table and saying that he has been the victim.
I never pointed fingers.
Councillor, I don't think he pointed the finger at any
Well,
councillor. He's just,
Swear
okay.
that he has been victimized in this council chamber. If he is, then there is a
Okay.
process to go through.
Thank you, Councillor. I have you on the list.
But I want that to stop right now in his comments.
Well, Councillor Reel, Councillor
if-
Crowley has the floor.
If you cannot debate, and that's what we do here in council chamber, then I cannot do anything about him
Councillor,
being able to debate.
correct.
That's what
Councillor
we do.
Crowley has the floor. He hasn't pointed out any councillor. So Councillor Crowley has the floor.
If I may, through you, Chair, to Councillor Riel, I wasn't calling anybody out by name. I just know that as a first-term counselor, I have been on the opposite end of some verbal spats. So along with that, I think if we're talking about bullying, Chair, which I believe we are, I think that another thing that I've seen other counselors potentially, multiple counselors, I'll say, berate staff. I would say that I remember when I first started running for council, I remember speaking to a former mayor, and they had told me that on numerous occasions they had seen counselors screaming down the hall. He didn't give names, but it got me thinking that we have a process in place, we have a code of conduct in place for how to handle when other counselors would bully another counselor or a mayor would bully a counselor. But if I may ask staff a question, Chair, through you, Chair Beamer, to you, Mr. Potts, what recourse does staff have? Because I know that we aren't governed by an HR department. There's no HR department that comes out and says, oh, watch your mouth. You shouldn't be saying that. What is protecting staff? What kind of recourse do staff have if they feel like they're being bullied by one of us?
In order, we're talking about an IC report, and this has nothing to do with that.
If I may, I believe Councillor.
So Councillor, your point of order is, I'll allow it because there's two recommendations. Councillor, you're correct. The first recommendation is around penalty, no penalty, but the second recommendation is potential amendments to the council code of conduct and procedural bylaw. So that is the second recommendation we're debating and voting on tonight, which came from the IC report. So conversations around amendments to the councillor code of conduct and procedural bylaw is in order because we're voting on it. So
He hasn't said one thing here except how he is the victim
Okay,
and then
Councillor.
how we conduct ourselves with staff, which is not in the IC report.
It is though, it does reference updating or amendments to the code of conduct. It is in the IC report. That's why it's the second recommendation we're discussing. So it is in order. So Councillor Crowley, you have the floor and you can ask a question around
Thank you.
recommendation number 2.
Thank you. And I apologize. I don't mean to make any other counselor upset. It was simply a question based on the second amendment. So Mr. Potts, what recourse do staff have if they feel that, for example, I am bullying a staff member? What recourse do they have?
Mr. Chair, off the top, of course, a complaint to the Integrity Commissioner, if it falls below the standard contemplated by the Code of Conduct, would be one avenue. Depending on the conduct, during, of course, it's not really a staff recourse during a properly constituted meeting, but of course, during properly constituted meetings of committee and council, the presiding chair has the jurisdiction under Section 241 sub 2 of the Municipal Act to expel any person for improper conduct, and that could include a member of council, certainly could include a member of the public or staff for improper conduct. But the jurisdiction of a presiding chair is another potential avenue, not under the control of a staff member who might be on the receiving end of such impugned conduct. Workplace harassment is another if it's relevant. Employees are entitled to a safe workplace, and outside of properly constituted meetings, a staff could be hypothetically on the receiving end of improper conduct in the workplace, improper conduct of a member of council or a member of the public. The city as an employer has an obligation to protect staff. The use of city issued property, for example, access to email accounts and city devices, tablets and cell phones and computers. If they're the instruments by which staff are abused by someone who has privileges to use them, those privileges could be revoked. I don't think that would be a council. It could be a council determination, but it could also be a determination at the administrative level. The trespass bylaw is related to conduct in the workplace if staff were ever on a receiving end of improper conduct by any person in a workplace. Council's delegated authority to certain senior staff to issue trespass notices. The trespass bylaw 20075 was drafted in contemplation of notices being issued to individuals who might also wish to attend properly constituted meetings. So there's a conditional time limited exemption for such attendances in the face of a trespass notice. And there may be other measures. I suppose a staff member could be defamed by a member of council. And of course, there would be civil remedies in those cases. And of course, extraordinary behavior contrary to the criminal code would be another area. And I think that's about all I can think of on the spot. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Councillor Crowley, you're up against your first 5 minutes. You want your second 5 minutes?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, so your second and final 5 minutes.
I don't, if I may, I think the point that I was making very clumsily was the fact that I've always considered it part of the job that we are 11 passionate people around here doing a job that we all take great pride in. We all think we have the best direction forward. We sometimes disagree. And I think sometimes we may end up getting angry and potentially speaking to each other potentially inappropriately. It's possible. And I think my failing is the fact that it shouldn't be part of the job. We shouldn't have to tolerate it. And as many delegates said tonight, it's bullying shouldn't just be take it for granted. It shouldn't be part of the job. It shouldn't be inherent in the system that we're in. So I won't be supporting the no penalty. I feel that it's inappropriate in this case. I think that we need to do something to show the city of Peterborough that we are, in fact, holding ourselves to a higher standard, and that maybe we won't tolerate bullying in our environment any longer. So I will vote against the no penalty, and should it fail, I will recommend that we reprimand Mayor Leal. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Carly. And I see the hands in the audience, so thank you, gallery. Speakers, I have Councillor Reel, Burke, and Lachika. Councillor Reel.
Through the chair, I intend to move an amendment to the general committee recommendation that council take no action in response to the integrity commissioner's finding. My amendment would replace the recommendation with the following: the council formally reprimand Mayor Jeff Leal for his conduct as detailed in the integrity commissioner's report dated the 26th of May, 2025.
Okay, so Councillor, that would be in contradiction to what we have in front of us, which is number one, no penalty. So the best thing to do is speak to it, but you'll vote against this recommendation. If it loses, I can come to you to make that amendment. But right now, it's in contradiction of what's already been moved.
And in contradiction of what part of the bylaw?
The recommendation in front of us says no penalty, so your amendment is a penalty, so it's just in contradiction. So you'll vote against the recommendation, and then I'd come to you to move what you're bringing forth.
Yeah, but under section 24-1 of the city's procedural bylaw 21-104, a motion to reconsider may only apply to matters that have already been resolved by council. The general committee vote to take no action on the report is not a resolution of council until it's ratified by a council member. So I can make a recommendation further. Section 25-1 of the bylaw explicitly states motions forwards to council from standing committees are not motions to amend or reconsider for resolution. This confirms that the committee's recommendations are subject to amendments by council, are not protected for reconsideration until formally adopted.
All right.
So this has not been formally adopted by council. This is me making a recommendation.
Mr. Clerk, can you just provide some guidance on the amendment that Councillor Reel wants to make? Is it in contradiction, or can you just give us your thoughts?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Regarding section 23 of council's procedure bylaw, 23.4 directs that a motion to amend shall not be in order if it's contrary to the main motion. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor, that's the ruling. You can make your comments and then just vote accordingly.
I don't know, I'm reading our bylaws and all this stuff, and I hear the clerk telling me something different when I print off what the bylaws are and the rules that we're supposed to apply for. I'm now finding out that these don't mean anything on the piece of paper that I have, are part of the procedural bylaw for council.
Point of order.
So first, okay, point of order, Councillor Clark, what's your, sorry, I don't know. Councillor Burke, it's been a while, though, I've been good.
Yeah.
Councillor Burke, what's your point of order?
Yeah, I would also like to get some clarity around the point that the speaker is making, because at general committee, I think we should all have a chance to make our amendment to the motion. And the first person who put their hand up was Councillor Baldwin, so he made his amendment. And my take of our procedural guidelines allows for other amendments to be made on the floor up until the vote has been ratified at council. And even if the nature of the amendment is contrary to what another person has amended, or else it just becomes a matter of getting to the table first to put your hand up, and then you're kind of solidified in a way against having your opinion heard. And the way that I interpret the bylaw is that general committee is not a council meeting, it's a committee. And until the vote is ratified at council, we all around the table have a right to make amendments on reports and vote on it.
So Councillor Burke, I agree with everything you said. You're right. We can make amendments. It's just a 6-5, not a 2/3. But an amendment can't be contrary to the main motion. So not to sound silly here, but if a recommendation is to paint City Hall red, you can't amend that to paint it blue as well. It can't be contradictory. So the ruling, Mr. Clerk just read it, and the ruling is this is contrary to the main motion. But again, you can speak to it and vote accordingly, and then I will come back to Councillor Reel to make the motion. So Councillor Burke, you are next on the list speaking to the recommendations.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. Just give me a sec here. I think that I want to first respond to the sort of commentary around the heat of the debate versus crossing an ethical line. I think that those things are two extremely different things. You know, we all get caught up in the heat of the debate, but at the end of the day, the public is watching. And in this case, there were multiple complaints made to the integrity commissioner, and the public has a chance every meeting to make those complaints if they feel that a counselor has crossed the line. And I think a lot of people watch our meeting. And so I just want to say that I think there's a huge difference between people speaking to the issues and getting passionate in the heat of the debate and what the integrity commissioner report is outlining. So I'd like to take this opportunity to speak to 3 arguments that have been raised to justify not acting on the integrity commissioner's report. I believe each one needs to be addressed clearly because what's at stake here is bigger than personalities. It's about what kind of standards we set for this council and what kind of culture we're willing to accept. The first argument, quote, Mayor Leal has suffered enough. This is a false equivalent argument. We've heard it said that the mayor has suffered enough, but that argument does not hold up. It doesn't hold up procedurally and it doesn't hold up ethically. The integrity commissioner already considered the context for what happened. It's baked into the report. The mayor's stress, his long service, the pressures of the job. And despite all these factors, the conclusion was clear. The mayor breached the code of conduct by intimidating one councillor and bullying another. Saying that, quote, he suffered enough is not a defense. It's an emotional appeal, not a standard of governance. If someone in any other workplace was found to have engaged in that type of conduct, we would not ask whether they had suffered enough. We'd ask what the appropriate response to the behavior should be. When we start making excuses because someone is liked, because someone is respected, or in this case, under political pressure, we create a double standard. That's not leadership. That's not integrity. That's privilege. The second point I'd like to speak to is about a character witness and biased, the CAO problem. At General Committee, Councillor Baldwin asked the CAO to give a glowing character reference for Mayor Leal in the middle of the debate. That was inappropriate.
Councillor Baldwin, point of order.
Mr. Chair, I don't believe I said a glowing recommendation. I asked the CEO if he could talk about the mayor's behavior and if there were any red flags. At no time, Mr. Chair, did I ask him for a glowing report about anybody. Yep. Thank you.
That is fair. So thank you, Councillor Baldwin. So Councillor Burke, that just be mindful of that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Chair Beamer, no,
Councillor Burke has the floor.
Yeah, no need for anyone to raise their voice. I understand, and I'll take my words back. At General Committee, Councillor Baldwin asked the CAO about Mayor Leal in the middle of the debate. This was inappropriate and coercive. The Integrity Commissioner explicitly found it.
Councillor Baldwin, point of order.
Mr. Chair, at the time I asked the CEO for his opinion, we weren't in debate. I was making comments to council. There was no debate.
Well, okay. Okay. In fairness, that question was approved by the chair. So if anyone feels that was inappropriate, it's the chair's responsibility. The chair could have ruled it out of order. So if anyone has issues with that question being asked, it's not on the councillor who asked it. It's on the chair who allowed it. Councillor Burke.
I'm not making any statement about those things. I'm making a comment about my opinion from the debate. And I believe that it was inappropriate and coercive. It's not an argument for innocence. It's an example of power dynamics at work. The Integrity Commissioner explicitly found it inappropriate to rely on the CAO's opinion, stating in the report, and I quote, under strong mayor powers, the mayor can hire and fire the CAO, creating a situation where it's unreasonable to expect an unbiased account, end quote. That question was also a violation of our procedural bylaw, section 7.3, where we're supposed to focus on issues, not personalities. The third argument I'd like to speak to is the he's a good person argument, the character argument and how it falls apart. Councillor Baldwin's argument boils down to this. I've known Jeff for 58 years. He's a good person. So I ask, Would it change your mind if the person who did this wasn't your friend? If they had a history of being difficult? If you didn't personally like them? Because if the answer is yes, then what you're really saying is that accountability depends on relationships, not facts. And let's be clear. This wasn't one person's complaint. Multiple people came forward and the Integrity Commissioner found misconduct, including one case where an attempt to resolve the issue privately failed. The facts are not in dispute. The question is whether we are willing to act on them. The report recommends that council consider penalties, including reprimand, suspension of the mayor's pay for up to 90 days, or remedial measures like training on harassment and bullying. If we choose to do nothing, we are not just ignoring the findings in this report. We're telling future complainants not to bother. We're saying that some people are above the rules. That's not the kind of council that I want to be a part of. We might as well rip up the code of conduct. We cannot build a fair and safe political environment if the rules only matter when it's convenient. And we cannot keep asking people to trust in this city if it refuses to enforce accountability.
Councilor McDermott, your second 5 minutes.
No thanks, especially when the violator is the most powerful person on this body.
Thank you very much, Councilor Burke. Thank you for the hands in the gallery. I see them. So again, thank you. Councilor Chica, 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair Beamer. I would, if I need to take my second 5 minutes, I'll do that if I am.
I'll let you know if.
Thank
get
you.
close.
Thank you. Just before I begin, a statement that I'd like to share. To the previous speaker's point, Councillor Baldwin, through you, Chair, there's nothing in the Integrity Commissioner report that states that the report came forward and identified 2 breaches was an example of a remedy. That's impossible. There's nothing in there that states that. What the report is a finding, and it's to council to determine a remedy. Okay? And the remedy could be nothing, and then there's the range of options and recommendations. So it is to council to determine a remedy. And it was a finding that was in the Integrity Commissioner's report. Now, this is one last opportunity for me to speak truthfully and frankly about the outcome of this year, yes, year of investigation. Through you, Chair, because the mayor has spoken about an apology or that he has apologized to you, to me, to us, is in question by some councillors. Councillor Baldwin stated last week that he has heard apologies on both counts, and he states, I believe him. Well, there was an apology that the Integrity Commissioner referred to that was made to Councillor Burke, but that did not include me at all, and we can listen to the tape, watch the tape. It is not there. It had nothing to do with me and the affront that happened outside of these chambers. Affronts, plural. The deduction that has been made from last week is that someone isn't telling the truth, or at least not all of the truth. As the Integrity Commissioner stated in the report, what occurred within an attempted mediation was confidential. And those of us who read the report read that. But because my story belongs to me, and because council will not have heard this formally, except perhaps the mayor's version, I will share this. I submitted my complaint reluctantly after much deliberation with myself in April 2024. A thorough investigation was undertaken by a renowned lawyer and expert in this field. In February 2025, an apology from the mayor was inadequate and incomplete. So yes, there was an attempt. But the efforts at phrasing an apology really emphasized more his own suffering and downplayed the gravity of what occurred. but there was an effort made in that confidential mediation. But the second part was that the mayor was to come before council and make an apology for what had occurred in that closed session. He agreed to that, and he promised he would do it. Months passed, and closed council sessions passed, and nothing came forward, and nothing came forward, and nothing came forward. So basically, council had no communication from the mayor about what had happened and what he had doubled down on so angrily in that closed session. That left me in a very difficult position. So over many months, he made no haste to complete what he'd agreed to before council to address and apologize for both berating me at the exit doors and again, doubling down in anger, as stated in the Integrity Commissioner report in that closed council meeting. Thus, it is now June 2025, 1 year later, and there has not been a resolution, as the report states. Any of us as political leaders can have sunny ways in a public-facing forum before staff where there is no political rapport. However, perceived character and actions are two very different things. We've heard about character. We've heard about friendships. But the actions are the issue here. No colleague should be treated by another in the ways Councillor Burke and myself were treated. City Hall, the municipal seat of government, ought to be a safe and respectful environment, like the legislature, like the House of Commons, like Rideau Hall.
Councillor Chica, second to me.
Like any other governance milieu. This is just how we should be doing business. And this tonight is just about doing business in a healthy way. It's 2025. We are not a party, and this is not a caucus where solidarity must be shown to the presiding leader. We are a municipal council where representatives are equally elected by the people to represent the people, and where all of us as electeds listen, learn, vote dynamically very often, vote responsibly, and according to what each of us feels is in the best interests of our constituents. The conundrum this year, and in circumstances beyond this report, there has been blame repeatedly ascribed by some to Councillor Burke and to myself for what has been suffered on the mayor's part. This is a great conflation. As the Integrity Commissioner report affirms repeatedly, we are not the perpetrators. It's not our fault. We refuse to be gaslit. We did not create the mayor's suffering, a term that Councillor Hakey described last week. We just want to be professionals, to be respected fellow politicians for having differences of opinion and for speaking thoughtfully and passionately to the opinions we have at our table. We want it to stop. We no longer wish to experience berating, aggression, sidelining, and constant needling by proxy in meetings extraneous to this. This is what's happening in hallways and in these chambers. We all deserve better than this. A healthy and safe governance environment is one we all deserve around this horseshoe, and one that the people of Peterborough deserve, especially when there is so much important work to be done. I thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See the hands, a few claps, but a lot of hands. So thank you so much. Thank you, Councillor Chica. Any further comments, questions on the report in front of us? Councillor DeGay, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. I'd like to start by thanking all the delegates that spoke this evening. And I appreciate the sensitivity with the subject. I wish to clarify, though, Mr. Chairman, that in the previous meeting, I elected to listen. I elected not to speak to the subject. There is perhaps a misconception And I think it's undeserved that because we choose not to speak, we don't care. That is simply not the fact. That's not the case. I, like my colleagues, have read the Integrity Commissioner's report. I've listened to the dialogue at this table with keen interest. I have received, like all of councilors, several emails. I've also received phone calls and been part of conversations. So I just wish to clarify and clear that from my perspective on the June 2nd meeting, and I was not prepared to speak tonight, but I wanted to clarify for those that I chose to listen and listen very carefully on the subject matter. The other thing that I wish to, if I can, Mr. Chairman, that this is, and I don't dispute, I'm not disputing the Integrity Commissioner's report. It's not our job. Our job is to consider some recommendations. And one that I think is important, Mr. Chairman, found specifically in the Integrity Commissioner's report, paragraphs 301 to 306. And that speaks to the need for some training. That speaks to the need for review and reconsideration of our procedural bylaw and code of conduct. And that is an important action arising from this complaint. That is an action. And to suggest then by saying no penalty or we're not doing anything, that's not correct. There will be a consequence, and specifically a necessary review of our code of conduct procedural bylaw. And Mr. Chairman, I believe that also could appropriately include training perhaps for the mayor and for others. So those are my comments. I just wanted to clear the record again. I'd like to summarize to thank the speakers on both sides taking time to come to this council meeting. I appreciated your respective inputs. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Duguay. Further speakers? Councillor Purnell, 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will speak to this, and I also thank the people for coming out and expressing their opinions. Did the mayor make a mistake or two? Yes, he did. And did he apologize at the very first public opportunity to do so? Yes, he
Okay,
did.
ladies and gentlemen.
He did. He apologized publicly the very first opportunity to do so. This whole process, the report, these meetings is reprimand. It is reprimand.
Okay,
In
ladies and
addition,
gentlemen, you've been great. Let's just listen. Whether we agree with what we hear or don't agree, let's just listen on this one. So Councillor Purnell has the floor.
thank you. And truly, this is not no penalty. There is much penalty already imposed officially, but also privately that many of you probably do not know, and it was not in the report. And the mayor and his family have actually been harassed and bullied. They have had their vehicles vandalized. Their home has been vandalized. There was a credible death threat. This is all very, very stressful. He has been brutalized on social media and at events. We have all been bullied and harassed.
Right.
So these things I do take into account. As someone actually did yell the word Bonneworth as he took a run at the mayor's wife with his car near her home. That is a very scary, serious issue, and that is horrible. So the stress caused by all of these actions to the mayor and his family and some of us is truly, it also is unacceptable. Bullying is not acceptable, but now.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Councillor Purnell has the floor. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what is going on right now is reprimand, is penalty. And as Councillor Duguay has mentioned, we will be going through the code of conduct again and through the procedural bylaw just to tighten some things up. And it's as much as it's easy to say, oh, let's just go to the Integrity Commissioner. It is a very difficult process. It's also a very expensive process to the taxpayer. And I haven't always agreed with the outcomes in previous sessions. So I won't support an additional penalty to the mayor. I think there has been more than enough reprimand and penalty already. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Purnell. Thank you. Councillor Burke, a second and final time. Councillor Burke, 5 minutes.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Beamer. And again, here I am now being put in a position that's very uncomfortable for me because I'm having to respond to this debate. And like, I don't know if I'm just delusional, but you know, in preparing for the meeting last week, my hopes at the very least would be that during this discussion, we would have a healthy discussion about what happened, what was so clearly defined in the report. And maybe someone would ask me, hey, Councillor Burke, what would you, since the majority of this report is about you and Joy, what would you guys feel could be done to make this situation right? No one has asked that question of us, right? And if you're asking me what that is, it's not that I'm out for blood. It's not that I wish those very terrible things that happened to Mayor Leal to happen to him. That's awful that happened to him. But that had nothing to do with me or the incident. And so what do I want? I was hoping that my colleagues would have enough sense to listen and to take to heart the experiences of us who were affected by this behavior and ask the question, hey guys, what would you need in this situation to make the situation right? And I'll answer that. It would be for the mayor to show the sincere desire that he was willing to change those actions through an action, not just by lip service, but through an action. That was the way it was taught to me to make things right. And you know what? I think it's irrelevant that this motion includes we're going to tweak the code of conduct. What is the point of tweaking it if we're not going to uphold it? That to me,
all right, ladies and gentlemen,
that to me is just crazy. So what are we going to do? We're gonna further define what already happened and was ruled that happened that already broke our current code of conduct. So what? What happens if someone goes against this new and expanded code of conduct? The outcome is still going to be the same. If there is an infraction, that person will have to go to the integrity commissioner, and that will have to come to council, and we will have to choose the reprimand. So I think it's irrelevant to look more deeply into this code of conduct. What I think is the right thing to do, and I hope that the mayor and his experience in leadership would reflect on what happened and come to the table with an action that he can do to make the situation right. Because we have shown the ability to be able to work with the mayor through all of this. And I have no, I'm not out for blood here. I am out. I'm speaking up in a very uncomfortable way because I don't think I should be the one having to speak to this. I just feel that given the gravity of what happened, and given that the mayor had ample opportunity to respond in a meaningful way and that didn't happen, that now it's our job to consider what can we rule on in this report to send the message that this type of behavior is not okay. And the message that we voted on last week to send is that do nothing. Right? So what does that do for us moving forward? Do you all think around the table that by doing nothing, it's going to promote a better work environment for us? No, it's not. It just means that people will be entitled to act however they want, as long as they have the support around the table when these reports come to us. And that's it. You know, through this process, I reached out to the mayor multiple times saying, Jeff, we need to get together. We need to go out for a coffee and get through this. We have a lot of work to do. And, you know, those conversations didn't happen. So here we are. And the ball is in our court to decide.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Burke, and thank you for the hands in the gallery. Thank you. Councillor Reel, a second and final time.
Through the chair, I was a witness to both of these incidents. I was also interviewed by the Integrity Commissioner on both of these. And when I read his report and what he thought should be the penalty or what should take place, I was totally in agreement. So it bothers me when a majority of councillors said there should be no penalty, because he was in his report that the proof of 2 breaches of code of conduct happened. And someone to tell me that the mayor has apologized. I haven't heard it yet. And like I said, I was witness to both of these, and I've been interviewed by the Integrity Commissioner on both of these. So I haven't publicly heard an apology to either Councillor Burke or Councillor Chica, the way I feel that a public apology should make. What I've heard is a blame game by the mayor. How dare you be in my way? And, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. But I don't classify that as an apology. The second part, why should I allow staff to dictate what the code of conduct is? This is our code of conduct. If you want to put a survey together or us to get together how we feel there should be changes made to the code of conduct, I'm all in. But why should I allow staff to tell me how should I conduct myself here? It's not their job. It's our job. We're the ones that go by the rules of the code of conduct. So either one of them, I will not be supporting Councillor Baldwin's motion that nothing should be done, and I will not be supporting staff telling me how they want to arrange the code of conduct for us to how to conduct ourselves in council chambers. It's not their job. That's our job and our code of conduct.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Real. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Real. I have Councillor Duguay, a second and final, and Councillor Baldwin, second and final. Councillor Duguay, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. And I don't wish to be argumentative, but I'm sorry, but Mr. Chairman, I don't appreciate when we try to speak and we're like the response. It's so nonetheless, the comment, the Councillor Burke's comment about and again, Alex, I'm appreciating your perspective.
Councillor.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, to Councillor Burke, I appreciated Councillor Burke's perspective that modifying the code of conduct what will be achieved, but that's a specific directive from the Integrity Commissioner. So somewhat of a contradictory statement. I do support completely that we do need to review our code of conduct. That's very clearly a directive, again, found in sections 302, 303, 304, 305, 306 of the report. Very clear. And that, secondly, to Councillor Riel's comment, while a staff might be engaged to prepare and provide for us a framework and a code of conduct, we decide the code of conduct around this table, not staff. To that point, I will agree, but it's the decision that will be made here at these chambers if and when that document comes forward. And I welcome that opportunity. And I would imagine, Mr. Chairman, that the public themselves might be able to attend the meetings at which our council, their elected officials debate and consider same. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Duguay. CEO Reyna, did you want to make a comment to that?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to remind everybody that the staff does not approve the code of conduct. Staff helps in writing, and it's totally up to the council to amend, to do the changes, because this is your code of conduct. Because staff has a different code of conduct for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Reyna. And just a friendly reminder around the table, at City Council, you get to speak twice for 5 minutes. So twice, not 3 times like General Committee. Councillor Baldwin, second and final time, 5 minutes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I won't need 5 minutes. Councillor Duguay and CAO Reyna both made the 2 points I was going to make. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Baldwin. Any further comments or questions? All right, moved by Councillor Baldwin. We will take a vote on the 2 recommendations.
Separate them out.
Yeah, we can do that. It might take an extra 30 seconds, but we can do that. We can separate them out. Is that okay? Yeah.
It's Councillor Duguay.
Councillor Duguay, seconder. Yep, so this is the first one, colleagues. And that is carried. And we'll take a vote on the second one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a vote on the second one. And that is carried. All right, so we'll take a 10-minute break. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. 10-minute break.
Yes, I'd like to move it and
Seconder?
thank you.
Councillor Burke, okay, please proceed.
Yes, I just wanted to say I indeed support what we voted to uphold last week through this motion. However, I just in thinking further, I just wanted to through you, Chair, to ask Commissioner Nelson, and I believe Director Boland was here earlier. I'm not sure if he still is, but this is just a net zero by 2051 question. Because there would be long-term savings and with the retrofits and renovations that would need to be done, Climate Action Plan 2.0 and our goal of net zero emissions by 2050, could we entertain the idea and would it be feasible to suggest that the building should not be heated with a gas boiler? If there is indeed retrofits that need to be done on that level. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Laidman as well. Could that be done based on our commitments and that template being laid on future decisions and corporate emissions in our larger buildings, all the work that we've been trying to do around that, but instead be a ground source heat pump instead of a boiler.
Who do you want to respond first?
So,
Nelson
Commissioner Nelson and or Commissioner Laidman.
Mr. Nelson, please, and then
Through the chair, I'll start and let Commissioner Laidman add some additional if necessary. So I think in all cases, we would always look at if there is available forms of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions related to any upgrades. The challenge we are faced with is still the reality of the affordability and recognizing, because again, unfortunately, some of those do still come with premiums, but we would look at it from a perspective of the offset of that premium and the return that the city would get in the GHG reduction emissions. So, you know, in a number of cases, we've done previous community building audits that look at those various opportunities. And in this circumstance, it would be my understanding that, again, as we moved in the design phase at some of those upgrades, we would definitely look at those possibilities and opportunities again.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Laidman, please.
Chair.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything else to add to that.
Further questions, Councillor Jacob?
That's for you, Chair. Thank you very much and appreciate that would be looked into and efforts would be made around that. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Beamer, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very quickly, just want to thank the executive director and a lot of the board and the members of Activity Haven. They do a fantastic job in the community, 1,300 members and growing. And when over the past year or two, when it was contemplated that perhaps we may be demolishing Queen Alexandra building, I know a lot of us around the table got many calls, many emails from people all around the community saying you need to make sure you think about Activity Haven and all the good work they do. So thanks for all you do, and you make a difference in the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beamer. Any further speakers? No? Oh, we'll go to a vote. And that is carried. The next one is 10G. Who was Councillor Vasiliadis? Are you moving it?
I'll move it. Yeah, I'll
And a
definitely.
seconder, please. Thank you.
Great.
Go ahead.
Oh, through you, Mayor. And I believe this question was probably going to Mr. Nelson. I know this is just not necessarily his report, but it's related to things we've talked about in the past. I've had a few questions. I know Councillor Hakey asked, what type of fuel are we using for the truck? And I believe it was gas. And so I had other questions of have we looked at electric vehicles and alternative, again, fuel vehicles? So I guess I want to ask too, when is the alternative fuel study coming? Because the reason I'm asking is that I know in the future, reports like this, we should probably have that in there, but we can't make that decision until we know all the options, right? And so can you elaborate a little bit on that and when it comes to making a decision to purchase such a truck?
Mr. Nelson, please, the alternative fuel study.
Through the chair to Councilor Vassiliadis. Currently, the alternative fuel studies is ongoing through some recent past staff changes. It's got delayed a bit. So it is the intention to get it back on track and hopefully get it reinitiated. And again, my understanding is there's additional touch points coming in the near future to basically try and get that through to the finish line. In the meantime, as I say, this vehicle would be looked at, and I know staff are continually looking at what other municipalities are doing in terms of alternative fuels and or alternative power mechanisms for these types of vehicles. The challenge being is, the duty that the vehicle has to offer, the power requirements, the length of day, et cetera, things of that nature. Again, the duration in which is it a vehicle that has to, start at 6 in the morning and operate through till 9 at night, then obviously, the types of fuels that are able to generate and provide that length of service and things of that nature all have to factor into it. So those are things, and it would be looked at. So my understanding of the report at this time is obviously to request budget in order to start to look at the vehicle. And then when the RFP is looked at, those types of vehicles that offer that type of duty and that service would be looked at. Whether there's an alternative type of fuel at this time right now that is available that will provide that type of service and duty is basically open to question. So.
Great. No, and I appreciate the answer. I know it usually comes up whenever we purchase a vehicle too, but I know once we have that report, we can be more informed in making our decisions. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Chika, you're next, then Hakey and Beamer.
Thank you very much, through you, Chair. To the previous speaker's point, I appreciate Councillor Vassiliadis raising this because indeed, again, with our goals of achieving net zero, I recall that maybe it was last year when it came up in a report from this division. We discussed that a fleet replacement in electric wasn't realistic, but that when there would be a particular vehicle that would be at end of life, that this would be something that would be more feasible to, one at a time as end of life vehicles needed to be replaced, where we could actually engage in purchasing an electric vehicle. So I just wondered if that is still the lens that we're looking at these purchases through. Perhaps Commissioner Laidman and or Commissioner Nelson, you could speak to that. Thank you.
Commissioner Laidman, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Leal. I think as Commissioner Nelson mentioned, through the procurement process, certainly the Recreation Division is committed to ensuring that the minimum standards of the vehicle can be met, and through the procurement process, if an electric or alternative fuel vehicle comes forward and can meet the expectations, that will certainly be considered through the procurement process as each vehicle is taken through that process.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Leidman. Thanks.
Any further comments? You can certainly see the value. Oh, sorry, Councillor Burke, and then No, you. I don't want to miss you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mayor Leal. And through you to Commissioner Laidman, just to follow up on that procurement process. I remember asking about this when I first got on council. Do we not always, usually, generally speaking, pick in the procurement process like the cheapest option?
Mr. Laidman, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Leal. So it depends on the type of procurement. Certainly the procurement bylaw dictates what process we'll go through. For a vehicle, it's not necessarily the cheapest version, but it's to ensure that the overall product meets our expectations to the highest degree. So it'll be scored based upon various elements, and it's not something my division goes through that often. So I'm not sure if Mr. Nelson has a more comprehensive answer.
Nelson, please.
Through the chair. So through this, there is some funding under the climate action, or the climate change action plan that would be available if there's an alternative type of vehicle that offers an alternative fuel usage and generates less greenhouse gas emissions. And sometimes that monies can be used to supplement those additional costs in order, the challenge being is the longer term cost down the road when it comes end of life and those subsequent, but fortunately that's a crystal ball right now that we're all looking to try and create. So
Thank you very much.
I just want to say that you can see how this capacity is going up. I happened to see a very successful soccer tournament at Eastgate on Saturday, Sunday. Hundreds of players, hundreds of parents, hundreds of grandparents, and to see all that activity. And obviously that generates waste. So when we have a capacity that we're suggesting there, we can get our parks cleaned up that much faster for the enjoyment of all. So there's no further comments. We'll go to a vote. Scary. The next item is H, the designation 1310 Alberta. Councillor Parnell, please. Are you moving it?
Actually, Your Worship, I would like to defer.
Okay, you're moving a deferral.
I am moving a deferral.
Is there a seconder for the deferral? Councillor Duguay? Councillor Parnell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. So my understanding about this property is that the property owner understood about the designation.
Sorry, Councillor Parnell, I think we have to move the motion to the floor, and then we can deal with the.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Clerk, just let us know here.
Thanks, Your Worship. I would just maybe suggest if we have a mover and seconder to put the matter on the floor, then a deferral motion could be
Can I
entertained.
do both?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll move.
Is that
it for-
satisfactory, Councillor Parnell?
I will move it for discussion.
Okay,
with
proceed.
advantage. Thank you. Okay.
Proceed.
Okay, thank you. So this again is one of those properties where, yes, would it be nice to designate it, but we don't own it and we don't have the money to buy it from the homeowner, et cetera. So the reason, in consultation with my ward partner here, if we can defer it until we can look at this as a budget item, because we do have this tax incentive to help people with the additional costs that are imposed upon them when we do heritage designation, which is why it's so important to many of us that the property owner is fully aware of the consequence of doing this, and then that there is a bit of a tax break for doing so. But we've also learned that that amount has not been increased for many years. It is oversubscribed now with a waiting list. We heard 12 properties tonight. I don't have confirmation of that, but this would be a number of years before this property owner would receive the tax benefit for designated properties. So I really think we should just pause, defer this matter, because this is a concern for this homeowner. She understands heritage, she's supportive of it, but it does, and I heard the word, hinges on the financial incentive. That was my understanding. So I will move the deferral, and I hope we can defer it until we can look at this as a budget matter.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Yeah, I will support the deferral, but I do have some questions. This is very unique for me because I'm either yes or no, but you have somebody that wants a designation, but there's no incentive that typically is there. So it's a bit of no man's land for me. But I do have a question, and I don't know who to address it to. It might be Mr. Laidman. Can this person go on the waiting list for the tax program, not have the property registered, but when it's available, because the owner would like to do that? And can they get in the queue now and then we designate it when the money's there?
Through the chair to Councillor Hakey, I'll initiate and maybe defer to Director Appleby if I miss anything. But the understanding as of right now, it would be council's basically option But they would have to imply a bylaw because currently the home that's there is outside of the limits or the boundaries of the current tax incentive program. But again, that can be done through council's direction and expanding on that. And again, I think it would be prudent that the program would also look after those people that are already currently on the waiting list if such a expansion of that program was to be made. Thoughts?
Okay, thank you very much. It's interesting because what we hear, and I don't disbelieve what we hear, which is the insurance companies should not be increasing the rates. These people should not be increasing the rates. But the fact is they do. Actually, they don't have to increase them. They just say we don't cover it. So that is a concern. But again, for me, this property is unique in that the owner wants a designation but needs some help. Fair enough. The other question that I have is, I don't know if there's a ratio of taxes. I'm not familiar with it. Can anybody tell me if it's $4,000 in taxes, we're going to give a 10% rebate, 20% rebate in taxes? Anybody? Anyone? Bueller?
Through your worship, I'll try my best. Admittedly, I'm not a fantastic expert at this, but my understanding is that the value, the sort of the heritage elements of a building, the value of those elements are calculated relative to sort of the value of the overall building. That then gets applied to sort of the tax of that building. And so whatever amount of tax that you pay, that gets scaled down to kind of what the heritage element is of that building, and the tax kind of gets scaled down to that. And so you're kind of assigning sort of a tax dollar value, if you will, to the heritage value of the house, and they get scaled accordingly.
And through you, your worship. So that's good to know. Is there any way that the current owner can get an idea of what that value might represent? Do we do anything proactively on that in that area or no?
Your worship, I think I would have to look into that and report back. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Leo. To Ms. Doyle, who I believe is still in the back of the room. I did have occasion during our break briefly to speak to Ms. Doyle regarding 1310 Albertus. We have a property owner that has approached council as a delegation who has expressed to us a willingness to designate, but has expressed a concern regarding the implications of insurance. Councillor Parnell's motion to defer to allow us to appropriately consider this as part of our budgetary discussions. It's not just this property, folks, it's every property. I suspect we've had two properties recently, the commercial building owned by Ashburn Realty, your worship, and now 1310 Albertus. So I would be particularly interested in understanding the fund as it exists. I think what's important, what I believe Councillor Hakey just said is relevant, that, and what Director Appleby said. So we have a property, let's use Albertus, it's worth $1, but if it's designated, it's worth $2. And if there's a consequently an increase in assessment, what is the corresponding tax benefit? So if we had that information here, I'm assuming there's no issue with the confidentiality or we're compromising the outcome, that would help us make decisions. That would help the property owner. What I also heard, which is important from Ms. Doyle, is that she has acknowledged that staff's meeting, staff's working with a property owner, and that is not to be critical of a past process, but that's welcomed because that was a challenge in these chambers in the past. This is welcome. So to my thanks to staff, Director Appleby, yourself, and this is important. So I would support the deferral. And I also have one question then to Director Appleby. I know there's a timing of the designation of properties and we need to move on these. It's till the end of 2026. I correct? That's the magic date. Yes.
Director Appleby, please.
Through your worship, that's correct.
So thus, your worship, if we have an opportunity, and I know there's a budgetary implication, but I don't believe it's a significant fund today. And perhaps with a modest bump up, we might be able to then find that property owners are willing to come forward, knowing that the increase in insurance, assuming it can still be insured, can be offset by a tax program benefit. Those are my comments there.
Councillor Burke, please.
Thanks, Mayor Leo, and I just want to, through you, the chair, appreciate my council colleagues, Councillor Duguay, Councillor LaChica. I feel that, to echo the statements of the last speaker, I think that by having these healthy discussions about this issue, we've made some headway with some issues with the process, and I think that's a really important thing. I support the deferral, and I thank, again, my colleagues for raising that as an option. I think that's great. Because it will still allow us to maybe designate it if it works for the owner. And I believe that it's a very important property. Maybe this is an unfair question to put staff on the spot with, and I don't know if we actually have staff present tonight that can speak to this explicitly, but my question for whoever is what is the budget? What would be the budgetary requirement necessary to get those 12 properties plus one into that program?
Mr. Nelson, please, if you could take a stab at that.
Through the chair, I currently don't have that information. I do know that the current budget that's allowed for the heritage tax program is 250,000, which currently is oversubscribed and not sufficient to accommodate any of the original. So that's the facts that I currently know. I don't know the information that you're asking in terms of making allowance for the additional ones or the subject property that we're talking about tonight.
Thanks. Through the chair, I think it's important for us when we're considering to look at these 12 properties plus this one plus maybe properties to come, what that means to us financially. I know that it's not a new factor that this fund hasn't been topped up. I was on PACAC before our portfolio changes, and that was the story back then. I guess it would have been 2022. The fund was at its limit, and there was no room for existing people to access. So I think that does anyone have that information of A, when was the last time the fund was topped up, and then B, what's the number we're looking at approximately to get these properties to receive that exemption?
Thanks, Councillor Burke. As we start preparing the 2026 budget, this would be appropriate background information, but I'll go to the Chief Administrative Officer. Mr. Reyna, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we will bring this information back to the council because it has a financial component as well as the planning component. So we'll get all the information, compile it, and then bring it back to the council.
Thank you very much. My second question, I appreciate the homeowner for coming and sort of referencing the financial implications of what this would mean to them. And so I don't really know what having a heritage designation means as a property owner. So if I own a property, my house was from the late 1800s. So, you know, if my house got designated and I needed to put in a new window and I couldn't afford $10,000 for a new window from a carpenter to make it like wood, like the city hall windows were done, and I went ahead and I got a regular window, what does that look like? Like what would be the repercussions of that for myself being the property owner and having that designation?
Mr. Appleby, maybe you could help us out.
Through your worship, there would be a permitting process to go through for that. There's no fee for that permit, but you know, the PAC Act would want to see kind of your plan and just kind of give the okay on what you're proposing, you know, and trying to maintain the if say that window was one of the defined kind of heritage elements of that building, to try and maintain that as close as possible. But certainly there needs to be flexibility in that process when, you know, it's not possible to go replace exactly like for like. And so, you know, every renovation is kind of on a case to case basis.
Well, am I hearing correctly through the chair that I would need a permit to replace the window?
Through your worship, yeah, there are certain things that require a permit. There are other things that don't. But if you're making alterations to your exterior facade, like replacing your windows and doors, or I think maybe changing, like, say, your soffits and fascia and whatnot, then there would be a permitting process for that.
I'll plead the fifth on that one. So I'm hearing though there is some flexibility because I'm looking at the building and there's like a new eaves trough system and a gutter and stuff. I think that kind of information for us would also be helpful to council. Like, what are the full implications of this, and what does it mean to the homeowners? And I think it's not only important to council; it's important to the homeowners that are whose residences are being considered for this. So, those are my questions. Thank you.
Years ago, I heard Councillor Burke that if you have a heritage designation, it's helpful to have deep pockets. Councillor Lucica, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just to this point, taking in the conversation, and one thing that I've appreciated is just even as an observer counselor at the PACAC meetings, just listening to the process and listening to all the perspectives of staff that is working really hard to go through these briefs for us so that we have all the information there. I know how precious Moira Hall is. I also just really happy that Ms. Doyle, you came today to present. One thing that our chair of PACAC had mentioned is that there will be a workshop about insurance, because there are some discrepancies in terms of what's out there with insurance companies, because we know that our city bylaw states that there is not a need for guaranteed replacement cost insurance. There was a letter that we circulated there. We don't require that. The Heritage Act doesn't require that. And some insurance companies are perhaps conveying that that is the basis for an extra cost for insurance. So something to be aware of as we shop around. As I think I mentioned it last week, I live in a house in a designated area, and it's not costing me more. And my insurance company did not expect there to be a higher fee. It's simply that you need to make sure that for outer facing walls and windows to the street, that you're attempting to recreate a heritage look and feel and quality. So that's what it is. But I can support the deferral, absolutely. However, I'm wondering if we could put a timestamp on it so that we for sure get it back to the table, be able to talk about the budget deliberation and how that might impact our fund that we might increase. Could we say November so that we don't miss the December deadline? I'm wondering if, through you, Chair, if the mover would be willing to have a timestamp on it.
Councillor Purnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Leal. In consultation with the clerk, we are going to put wording in the deferral to refer to the budget cycle. Okay. So that implies the timeline.
Oh, thank you. So that indeed, just to confirm then, through the clerk, would that be able to come back to council before the December 2026 deadline? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just if I could clarify the motion, it's been moved by Councillor Purnell and seconded by Councillor Duguay that the report, which is the designation of 1310 Albertus Avenue, aka Moira Hall, be deferred for budget considerations of the tax benefit program. And the budget meetings will occur in November and subject to council's concurrence. If council chooses, then the budget for this year, for the 2026 calendar year, would be approved in December of this year.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Mayor Leal, and through you, definitely on publicly or after the meeting, I invite my council colleagues to correct me on this if I'm wrong. But if we're looking at a substantial amount of these properties coming to council, and if the old system was just to top up the fund and then fit people within that fund who are prioritized on the waiting list, would it be beneficial for us to have like a second option where we could have a financial consideration attached to the reports so that if a very important property comes and in this case, the property owner says, yes, I'm all for the designation as long as I can receive that tax incentive. Can we understand what that tax incentive would mean to us budgets from a budget perspective year after year, which might give us the flexibility to approve one of these things like in a one-off way instead of just sort of clearing the queue. You know what I mean? Those would be my comments, and it would be helpful to understand that moving forward. Thank you.
Yes, I just noticed that the motion's been put up the monitor, and Councillor Burke, that's appropriate information to put together when we have a broader conversation in November in this matter. Any further speakers on this? You've seen the motion on up there. We'll go to a vote. And that is carried. The next one we have is item J on Argyle Street. If we have a mover or seconder, Councillor Duguay has a conflict here. Councillor Purnell, Councillor Baldwin, will comments or questions? We'll go to a vote.
Thanks, your worship. We're just going to load the recommendation for 780 Argyle Street.
Mr. Clark?
Oh, your worship, who's the mover and seconder for that?
Councillor Purnell, Councillor Baldwin.
Put on. Thank you.
And that's carried. And Councillor Duguay, your declaration is duly noted there. The next item is L, encampments at city property. Councillor Hakey, please.
Thank you very much, your worship, and through you to, I think, Commissioner Lehman. Councillor Burke and I had a conversation last week about the costs to be included in here, and I just want to make sure that we're looking at the policing costs, fire, and paramedic. I know it says in here and other related expenses, but specifically.
Councillor Hakey, you moving this?
Oh, yes, yes.
Seconder. Councillor Burke, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Sorry, your worship.
No, not at all.
So I'm just making sure that those costs will be part of this also. Am I correct?
Mr. Lehman, please.
Through you, Chair, Mayor Lill, could you just reiterate your question there? I don't know if I heard the first part of it while I was scrolling down the agenda.
Okay.
Councillor Hakey?
My apologies. So the encampment on city property, you're to report back with a comprehensive breakdown of all associated costs of enforcement. I want to make sure, for me, that they include the policing, the fire, and the ambulance paramedic services, amongst other related expenses, but specifically those. Is that something that we can get?
Mr. Lehman, please.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Leal, while I'm not sure it will be myself doing the report, I'm sure it will involve all the commissioners around the table. I'm sure we'll endeavor to make it as comprehensive as possible to include all the relevant costs, including the ones that Councillor Hakey mentioned, if they're available to us. That would be the key. As obviously the police costs, we're not overseeing those, so we'll have to rely upon them. But if they are available, that would be my expectation if this motion goes through.
Thank you very much. And I do understand some of the parameters that could be around even the paramedic service, but if we could take an educated guesstimate, that is better than nothing at all in my view. So thank you very much.
Councillor Beamer, please. Oops.
Thanks, Mayor Lill. Just, I guess, on following up on Councillor Hakey, I think this is just for 1 week, which is fine, but I think whether it's this report or at some point, we need a cost, the total real cost of housing and homelessness after 3 years of this council. Councillor Hakey and I had a town ward meeting last week following the 2 Ashburnham ward councillors last year with about policing and community safety. And the very first question from a business owner was, what is the cost of policing for Trinity? He drives by Trinity all the time because his business is downtown, and he wanted to know what's the cost for Trinity, the policing of the homeless, and the answer was, well, we don't really know. So I know this report is just a week, but I think at some point we need full costing of the homelessness strategy for the past 3 years, the primary costs of the money that's going into Trinity and Wolf Street, the secondary costs, policing, EMS, cleaning up encampments, cleaning up parks, which a lot of this we have. I think last year was over $700,000 cleaning up park encampments. Wolf Street's over 5 million, most of it provincial, but still taxpayer dollar. Trinity's over $1 million now. And again, what's the policing costs to police the homeless around these 2 areas? So a lot of people are asking for it. 3 years into this council, I think at some point we need to provide the community, this is the cost to this homeless strategy. Is it working? Is it not working? So this report's just 1 week, I think, but at some point in time, Mayor Leal, we need the whole costs, the real costs of homelessness. Thank you, Mayor Leal.
Thanks, Councillor Beamer. Councillor Burke, please.
Thank you, Mayor Leal. And just respectively as the mover of the motion, this motion is not about the costs surrounding homelessness. Those costs are from the city perspective, are pretty evident within our budget. We have a report coming to council on the 23rd that looks at those costs. And I think that we will have ample opportunity, like we do every year at budget time, to see what they are within our budget books. I understand there are costs on the periphery, police, EMS, and I think that we've always been able to get access to those numbers if we wanted. But this motion and the nature of the motion is around not homelessness. It's around the way that we're enforcing our bylaw on people that are unhoused and the effectiveness of that approach. Thank you.
Councillor Riel, please, and Councillor Purnell. Councillor Riel.
Through the chair, I think it's a great question. Certainly nice to know the cost is, but I would also like my colleagues to tell us what their plans are to eradicate housing and homelessness, because I hear all kinds of comments being made about the money that you're being spent. But here's an example here. This is the 3rd time that we've moved people in a year, taken them down to Morrow Park, their Morrow building, and then the next day they're back again. So Councillor Burke and myself made a suggestion to put 16 more modulars on Wolf Street to try and accommodate those people, but also another shelter. Because if you want to enforce the no tenting bylaw in the park, you have to have a place to put these people. So it's great to have a cost, and it's great for the public of how much money we're spending and all this stuff, but what is your solution to the problem? I would love to hear it. Councillor Burke and I have made suggestions, and it's fallen on deaf ears. So great to get the cost, but for the rest of council, please tell me what you would like us to do, because it's not working.
Councillor Purnell, please.
Thank you, Mayor Leal. I do understand the motivation behind this additional report, and I do agree that we need to know the whole cost of what this is costing us, not just for 1 week, but the one figure was $11 million, and that didn't include police, fire, ambulance, public works, bylaw enforcement. So it's a very high number. My gut feel is that this is actually a little bit redundant, because we have already heard we have a fulsome report coming on the 23rd, and we do have budget starting tomorrow, actually. So I think this really is not necessary at this point, because we're already working on this file and this budget. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Councillor Hanky, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and to Councillor Riel. I think the key missing piece here is what are the taxpayers of the city responsible for? How many people are we responsible for? If it's a moving number, we're never gonna solve the problem. So I understand your frustration, but do I remember correctly that we had asked the province to define what our responsibility is, through you perhaps to Mr. Commissioner Potts?
Mr. Watts, please.
Your worship, and I'll defer to Mr. Kennedy, but I believe the motion carried on a 9-2 vote on May 20th. I noted this morning that Bill 6, Safer Municipalities Act 2025 received royal assent on June 5th without the requested amendments. And those amendments sought clarity with respect to the standard that municipalities are expected to meet as a condition of enforcement of their standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and Mr. Potts. Thank you. And herein lies the problem. How can we solve something if we don't know what it is? We know we understand what it is, but we don't have a number. So that's the frustrating part. I would suggest that we contact MPP Smith and push for some type of answer. If we're responsible for 1,000 people, then it's 1,000 people. And I'll tell you right now, if we have a number, I'll go, let's build them houses. Let's get it done and be in. But without that number, the only thing we can do is piecemeal things together and band-aid them. And it's an awful way to go. I agree. And this is outside of any of the, in my view, it's outside of any of the medical facilities that we need on top of that. But if we're responsible for 300 people to house them, that's what we should have, is 300 places. Thank you. And you would have my support, by the way.
Councillor Duguay, please. And then Councillor Burke.
Your worship, I would like to call the question. The recommendation is straightforward. We're asking for a report on 1 week of activity. We've also acknowledged as these chambers in June 23rd, there's a comprehensive report. I don't think we're going to solve homelessness tonight, but I think we need to move forward on the straightforward motion. Thank you.
Asking for the call of question is not debatable. We'll go to that vote to call the question. And that's carried. So we'll now go to the question. We'll vote on the question. That is carried. Mr. Clerk, is it notice of motion is next?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Councillor Purnell?
Thank you. I'm just pulling up on my computer. I did bring this up sort of on the fly last week, and in consultation with staff, I've amended it a little bit, and I think that's going to go up on the screen. And this is just to acknowledge that we are working in partnership with PACAC, etc. So whereas owners of properties recommended for heritage designation are entitled to notice prior to their properties being designated under the Ontario Heritage Act, be it resolved that following council consultation with the Peterborough Architectural Conservation Advisory Committee, PACAC, that prior to council considering a property for heritage designation, that the property owners be notified by registered mail of the date of the council meeting when PACAC's positive recommendation will be considered. So it just takes in a little bit more language. The intent of this is to make darn sure that the homeowners of these properties, or property owners, because it's not always homes, truly know that they are being recommended for heritage designation, and then they can make an educated decision whether they would like to be on that list or not, because we have heard a great deal, but there are some real consequences to that, and many people are totally fine with it, but they should at least have the proper notice to make that determination and let us know. So that's the intent here. Things have improved. I will add though very quickly, things have improved quite a bit as far as notification, but it's still not perfect. We're still having things mailed out and people aren't receiving them. So if we do registered mail, we know for sure that the property owner has been notified. Thank you.
Councillor Purnell, you're moving this motion, second by Councillor Duguay. Thank you very much. Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Mayor Leo. I support the motion and the idea to increase our communication with property owners. I definitely do. But I have a question about the line about it just jumped on my screen here. I guess I'm looking for clarity, like what does it mean following council's consultation with PACAC? Because usually the way that it works is that PACAC makes the decision and then it comes to council. So are we inventing like a new way for us to communicate with PACAC?
Thank you. Through the mayor, this was actually provided to me by the clerk, but my understanding is that is referring to us receiving like a report, and that's our consultation when we receive the report from PACAC. I believe that's. Am I interpreting that correctly, Mr. Clerk?
And this is an amendment to Councillor Purnell to the main motion. Is that right, Mr. Clerk?
Thanks, Your Worship. That's correct. If I understood correctly, it was Councillors Purnell and Duguay who had moved the main motion. And then there is, in the second paragraph, there is amended wording just to clarify, which is what Councillor Purnell was referencing to. And just procedurally then, this would be an amendment. So at the moment, as I understand it, we're dealing with the amendment on the floor.
Yes, we'll vote for the amendment, then we'll vote for the amended main motion.
Yeah, and then I think if I was just talking to His Worship, but I think if I heard Councillor Purnell correctly, I think that was accurate, but I may defer to my colleagues on just your question about the process here, if that's what you were asking.
Yeah, so I have the floor, I believe.
You do,
Mayor Leland. My question, I support the amendment because I believe in us upping the way we consult with the property owners. But my question is around the phrase that following council's consultation with PACAC. And so can I just get some clarity on that? Because I don't understand that we have a formal process right now where we consult with PACAC before these reports get put on our agenda. Thank you.
Councillor Purnell, please.
Actually, Mayor Leal, I think Councillor Burke is making a very good point here. So I think I would eliminate that part of the sentence and then just have whereas owners of the properties recommended for heritage designation are entitled to notice prior to their property being designated under the Ontario Heritage Act, be it resolved that prior to council considering a property for heritage designation, that the property owners be notified by registered mail of the date of the council meeting when PACAC's positive recommendations will be considered. That would be the amendment to what is written on page 7 of our agenda.
Mayor Leo, thank you. That clears up my concern with that phrase. Thank you very much.
Mr. Clerk, please, to clarify things for us here.
Thanks, Your Worship. I was just seeking a bit of a clarification from Councillor Purnell here on the wording, if I might. And my colleague might have a comment or question here, Mr. Potts.
Mr. Potts, please.
Your Worship, I think the answer involves two issues. Firstly, it seems that the concern of council is that owners receive notice sufficiently in time before so-called the horses are out of the barn in order to be consulted. I think that's the one issue. The second issue, and it's something that staff have been discussing since a recent file, and that is that our process in practice actually is a little inconsistent with what the Act actually contemplates. The Act actually contemplates that before council makes a determination, if council has a heritage committee and the city does have one, then prior to determining to give notice of intention to designate, there needs to be consultation with the Heritage Committee. But that jumping off point starts with a council determination about whether to even engage the heritage process. And so I think the concern that staff picked up in the first version was the last phrase, prior to the matter being on any council agenda. Well, that would be contrary to what the act actually contemplates. So I think it's a question of reconciling council's initial role, which frankly to date has been missing in practice, with the intent to ensure that owners of properties that potentially might be designated have sufficient notice, and confirming that with registered mail, as I understand the motion. So the phrase prior to council considering a property for heritage designation on its own could potentially be troublesome for the same reason that the original one was. It takes council out of any part of the process, but council's supposed to initiate the process. I hope I've explained the issue.
Councilor Brunel?
Thank you, Mayor, to Commissioner Potts. Wouldn't the fact that we already had on our agenda, this list of 53 properties that we are going to have PACAC look at, by the certain due date, isn't that satisfying that requirement, sir?
Well, Your Worship, yes, I think that's the issue. This motion seems to be intended to deal with those properties, right? As opposed to a resolution that could be interpreted as applying to any heritage designation process. That's why those words were a little out of place. They were going to be too generally applied. So perhaps scoping language, and I defer to of course, the mover, but if the intent is to deal with those particular properties, maybe scoping language that respecting, describe the properties, and then add that, because that's the intention, it seems, of the motion. I hope that's helpful.
Councilor Brunel?
So, are you okay? Okay, I am going to be taking the advice of Commissioner Potts. He's the expert, the subject matter expert in this, and I think that wording will ensure that it does come to council first. So maybe it is a bit of a tweak in the process, but I think that might be a good thing. So I hope, okay, we'll leave the wording as recommended by Commissioner Potts through the clerk's office. And I hope my seconder agrees.
Clerk, what do we have here?
Thanks, Your Worship. Apologies for any confusion. I'm just going to ask my colleagues to upload this motion here is Councillor Purnell, and this is the one I believe that was originally discussed here this evening. This one here has, I think it captures the wording that Mr. Potts indicated, but I'll defer to him.
Councilor Berkeley.
Thank you. I think I agree with Commissioner Potts's recommendation to scope the motion specifically to the properties that we've already put on that list.
The 53?
The 53. I think that if we do that for these 53 properties, then there's a chance for us to spend the time to word a motion that will apply to future heritage designations in a way that we're not doing on the fly.
I will seek advice on how to do this properly. I just want registered letters to go to all property owners.
Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Perhaps just hearing the comments, I might offer a suggestion here. The original notice of motion that's before council this evening, the second paragraph reads in the agenda that property owners being recommended for heritage designation receive their notice by registered mail requiring a signature prior to the matter being on any council agenda. And if I heard the comments correctly, and I'll look to my colleagues here, but I may suggest adding respecting the 53 properties identified by council.
Councilor Purnell?
If that covers it, then we can move forward. But we do need to, bottom line, we have to notify these people.
Mr. Potts?
Just to close the loop, Your Worship, I will defer to Mr. Appleby because he's the lead on the actual 53.
Mr. Appleby, please.
Your worship, so I think we could maybe clear this up if we wanted to be specific, and add in a reference. You could add in a reference to the 53 properties that were considered through report IPGPL 25-015, and that would tighten it right up to what council had considered.
Thank you, Mr. Appleby.
I'm fine with that. And then we'll get through this and then at a future date, going forward, this should be standard practice going forward. Thank you.
Councillor Duguay, does this suffice?
Your worship? Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Clerk, we'll deal with this amendment, then we'll vote for the main motion.
Thanks, Your Worship. That's correct. I'm just going to send to my colleagues here. So if I could just recap, Your Worship.
Sure.
The Councillors Purnell and Duguay moved the main motion, which is the notice of motion in the package. And if I understood correctly, then the amending motion, which Councillors Purnell and Duguay have moved, is to add the following wording to that motion. It's to respecting the properties identified in report IPGPL 25-015.
Councillor Burke?
Just if you'll allow me, Chair, I think also we all agreed that to take out the point of council's consultation with PACAC, because that actually doesn't happen.
Councillor Purnell nodded yes.
Yep.
Hey, Mr. Clerk, can we get this amended up? Screen, please.
Thanks, Your Worship. We're going
Got a
to
lot of moving parts here. And
just going to send this to my colleagues here, Your Worship.
a lot of moving parts in the last 5 minutes.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just while my colleagues load this on the monitors, I'll just recap. The amending motion would be to the second paragraph of the original notice of motion. And the second paragraph would read that property owners being recommended for heritage designation receive their notice by registered mail, requiring a signature prior to the matter being on any council agenda. And the amending portion would be respecting the properties identified in report IPGPL 25-015. That latter language is the amending motion that's subject to the mover and a seconder concurring is before council for consideration. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks, Mr. Clerk. Ready to go? We'll vote on that.
Thanks, Your Worship. So what it's the latter part in that narrative there that reads respecting the properties identified in report IPGPL 25-015. That's the amendment. If it's supported by council, then it becomes part of the main motion and we
Then
move
we'll
back
vote
to
on
the
the
main
main
motion. Thank you.
Amendment's carried, and Councillor Purnell, Councillor Duguay, you're moving the main motion as amended, and we'll vote on that now. And it's carried. The next item of business is approval of bylaws, bylaw 25-080 to bylaw 25-082. Someone like to move those? Councillor Faciliatis, Councillor Beamer. Comments or questions? We'll go to a vote. And those bylaws are carried. Other business, Councillor Riel.
Through the chair, there's been an ongoing issue at the library. If you read the Peterborough Examiner on Saturday night, it blamed this council for layoffs. The only thing this council did at budget time was to ask each department to find efficiencies. How they went about that was up to them. So senior staff, and I don't sit on the library board, but the library board must have discussed how they were going to find efficiencies. And if they made the decision to lay people off, it's at their feet, not this council. But in Saturday night's paper, it blamed this council for the layoffs. And I want the record straightened. This council did not make any motions to lay anybody off. That was a decision by either senior staff at the library or the library board itself. I just wanted to clear the air.
Schleben, do you have any comment on that? I know collective bargaining is still ongoing at this time.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think it would be, if I refer to the budget process, council did ask staff to present options available to reduce the budget to an appropriate level that council was amenable to. One of the options chosen to reduce the budget was the reduction of the library budget, and it was clear that that would lead to a restructuring of staff. So the option chosen by council did include the words restructuring of staff, which would lead to the loss of 2 positions. That was clear in the report provided to council of being chosen. Councilor Riel, though, is correct on that senior staff are pursuing how exactly to do that, to carry out that mandate along with the library board. But so I just wanted to clarify that, if that helps.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Suffice, Councillor Riel. Councillor Faciliatis, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be really quick, guys. I know it's almost 10 o'clock, so I'll be quick with this. So through you to Commissioner Szymanowski, I just want to say that I feel that the Public Works has done a great job in clearing the trees, cleaning up the trees, cutting down the trees that need to be cut down. But recently, I've had a few inquiries about, people waking up and the beautiful tree in front of their house is gone. So in one particular situation, I think our communication could be a little bit better, but constituent was told that the city assumes trees in its road allowance. Now, how would anyone know, and necessarily where their property line is or what the road allowance is in front of their house?
Mr. Szymanowski, please.
Certainly through you, Mr. Chair, the city GIS maps that are available to the public do have specific maps for tree inventory, which also overlay property lines. So there is some clarity as to where the paved road is, as well as where the boundary of the property is, which is often wider than the actual paved surface. When you have a sidewalk, there's some clarity. When you don't have a sidewalk, it may not be as clear. So that would be definitely a useful place to go and recognize where those trees may be public or private.
That's great. And just on the communication piece, I know that one constituent was told that a blanket notice was issued citywide due to the emergency declaration. And I have to be honest, I don't think everybody knows that that means that the beautiful 50-year-old tree in front of their house could be cut down. Now, is there anything we can do better just to increase our communication on that side, just so that I mean, in some cases, there wasn't even an X mark on the tree. There was no indication. Is there anything we could do to increase that communication piece?
Mr. Simonoski, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the unfortunate volume of work that was generated by the ice storm definitely made communication challenging. We do recognize that there were some residents that were concerned with how trees may have been assessed and how trees were removed. And we have tried to look at opportunities to improve that communication and try to incorporate those into any future emergency situations. It was obviously very difficult dealing with over 30 crews at some points where we're trying to manage that and recognizing the impact. And trees are being replaced where we can, but we will take that back and try to improve our communication process.
No, I appreciate that. And I just want to say what great job has been done. And I just know if we're starting to take down some of the big trees in front of people's homes, it does mean something to them. So the communication side would be great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Crowley, please.
Just, thank you, Mr. Chair, or thank you, Chair. Through you to Commissioner Simonoskis, you mentioned the GIS site, the road allowance, and that there's a public site. Would you be able to email that to me? Because I think I find it easier to disseminate that via email for people that ask. So just a quick link. It's probably the maps, the GIS site.
There was a nod. He'll do it for you. Done.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Anything further? Someone like to move the confirmation bylaw 25-083? Councillor Duguay, Councillor Baldwin, we'll go to a vote. That's carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Parnell, Councillor Duguay, we'll go to a vote. Okay. Be down there. That's carried. Thank you, audience. Thank you, staff. Thank you, colleagues.